Tripti ma'am, you may begin.
A very good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay which has taken place due to some technical errors. So I, Sati Majumdar from Department of Management Studies, LCIT Group of Institutes, welcome you all on day 2 of ICETMRI organized by LCIT Group of Institutions. I would welcome all the dignitaries, deans, HOD, faculty members, staff, student, participants, and viewers present here for the day 2 sessions. Going ahead with the sessions, I'll just discuss once again with you all that what all sessions we are going to have today. We'll be having a special sessions by Dr. Asmita Kane from USA. Secondly, we'll be having Dr. Saket Jaswani, who is a keynote speaker today, addressed by Dr. Mona Purohit. Then we'll be having Dr. Giri Sharma, who will be addressing us all. Post that, we'll be breaking for lunch. Next, we'll be having a session for all the streams parallelly where the people would be presenting their papers as per their own disciplines. And then lastly, we'll be having our valedictory ceremony where all the dignitaries will be addressed, and we'll be having many other speakers who will be addressing us. Moving ahead with the special session by Dr. Asmita Kane from USA. But before she starts, we'll have a just brief about Dr. Kane. She is a residential faculty professor in chemistry at Mesa Community College, Mesa, Arizona, USA since 2006, MCC. With its 4 different campuses, supports close to a population of 30,000 students. Dr. Kane teaches undergraduate lectures and labs in chemistry with focus in general inorganic, physical, analytical chemistry. She also mentors and supervises students from undergraduate research projects, dissertations since the past 13 years now. Dr. Kane got selected as cohort 3 for a 5-year NSF National Science Foundation USA grant from course-based undergraduate research. She recently got selected as Campus Faculty Mentorship Program Reviewer for US Department of Education funded HSI STEM 2022 grant at Mesa Community College, Arizona, USA. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us for this session. We are pleased to have you here today, and we are glad to hear you. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Lovely introduction. Our chief guest of the conference and Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Verma, the Director of LCIT Group of Institutions, Dr. Pandey, esteemed faculty, students, and attendees. Good morning. It's an honor to give a special session this morning and a pleasure to be part of the International Conference on Emerging Trends in Multidisciplinary Research and Innovation 22. Thank you for your invitation. I will be speaking about a review of nanotechnology applications in water splitting and water cleaning processes with some views on carbon dioxide as well. I'm going to try and screen share my presentation. So I'm getting a message that I need some permission.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it's saying unable to share. It's some. It says unable to access screen sharing and ensure you have been granted the permission.
I'm trying that, but I cannot see any permission being asked for.
So I share the screen. Do you want me to share the window or the Chrome tab or the entire screen? Hello. Yeah, it's giving me the same message that I need some kind of a permission to present. Are you able to see my presentation? Okay, can you just tell me if it's big enough for you? It is visible, correct? All right. So to split or to clean the water? So that is the question. So of course, as I said, it's a review of nanotechnology that is being used for water, carbon dioxide, and of course, energy that comes in the picture. So it's very important that we first get to know what is nanotechnology. Study and application of extremely small things, but basically is the manufacture and manipulation of materials and devices at nanoscale. Nanometer is a billionth, 10 to the negative ninth of a meter. Nanos in Greek also means dwarf. So it's a small thing, it's a small world. So they are easier to manufacture, they are lighter in weight, nanomaterials, they are very strong, and they create lesser waste. So it has a very high potential for improvement in health, quality of life, quality of energy, and conservation of environment, of course. So that's where nanotechnology is being put on as on the anvil right now. It's on the horizon. I'm not going to go in the details of the classification, but we must know the dimensionality. Nanomaterials are classified based on their dimensions, their structure or morphology, and their chemical composition. So let's just focus on dimensions right now. If it's a zero dimensional, that means they are small bundles, small clusters like this, or dots as we call it. One dimensional are straight nanorods or wires that you have heard of. You probably have heard of carbon nanotubes. Two dimensionals are sheets, and three dimensional are more or less like three-dimensional growing composites. So what are the main types of nanomaterials intentionally produced? These are the four types or four categories right now: carbon-based.
Can I interrupt for a moment? Kindly put your PPT on the screen.
Oh, I thought it's being shared.
And a PPT is not visible.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. It's not getting shared. It's not letting me share the screen.
Okay, okay. Then please continue, ma'am. It would be nice, even listening itself is a great thing.
No,
Yeah.
but I think if you can grant the permission, I think it's asking for some permission to screen share.
We are trying to correct it. I think there was some technical issue from this stream only. So we are trying to connect, but please continue.
Telling me that unable to access screen sharing, ensure all granted necessary permission and try again.
Okay. So then please continue, ma'am. Please continue.
Okay, well, I have the presentation, but unfortunately, I guess we can't see it.
Ma'am, I'm sorry to interrupt. Your screen was visible, but it was all your computer screen that was visible. So you need to put your PPT on visible mode. So
Yeah,
that
it is there. It is the PowerPoint is there, but unfortunately, it's not letting me share it. I don't know
So
what to
could you
do.
share your entire screen once again? See, there are three
Yeah.
options over there.
Yeah. So
You
when I
have-
say entire screen and I click, it gives me a message saying unable to access screen sharing.
Ma'am, if you can switch to the window mode, there's a second one that is window.
Okay, let's try the window.
Yeah. And then over there, you can select the window. So you need to
Okay.
select, I can see you've selected the entire screen. Rather than that, you need to select your PPT over there. It must be showcasing you 4 or 5.
How about now? Yeah, it's not giving me that option at all. I know what you're trying to say. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
giving
Hello.
me to select.
Hello, Asmita, Rashmi here.
Yeah.
Huh. Asmita, we can do one thing or what? We can do it
How
on
about
Google
now?
Meet. Otherwise, we can do it on Google Meet.
I can do it on Google Meet. Absolutely.
Yes, yes, Asmita. We are sending you a link of Google Meet. You join that meet, and then I think your slide will also be shared with us.
Yes. Yes. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
So
okay. We
do you
have
want me
one
to get
we have one presenters link which we had used yesterday for the other presenters
Okay.
of a college and other college presenters.
Sure.
We are sending you
Can-
that link.
Sure. Can you send that to me on email, please?
Yes, yes.
Thank
ma'am.
you. Yeah.
Oh, ma'am, if we could make it a little easier, if you can email me your presentation, we will present it from here, and you can simultaneously going on ahead over here, because as already we have around 40 to 50 viewers watching us right now. So
Okay.
if you can email me that, I've sent it to you on the chat. If you can just email me your presentation,
And then who do I email this to again? I'm so sorry about this.
yeah, just 1 second.
Yeah, I think Google Meet will be better for me.
If you can just mail me the presentation, ma'am, because there's already around 40 viewers watching us right away.
You can send me on director's mail, ma'am. The same mail. Please respond. Send your PPT.
Okay, the one with Mr.
Yeah,
Pandey.
by which I shared with the this link. Mr. Paul has shared his email, that is abhinav@lcit.edu.in. You can send on that also.
Yeah, I'm going to try and send on that. So are you sending me the Google one, Google Present Drive thing?
No, ma'am. Could you please first send the PPT on that?
I already did.
You did? Okay, fine. Just a
Yes.
minute. Just wait. Just for a while. So what time is that, Dr. Kane, there right now?
You don't want to know. It's 9:30 in the evening.
Okay. Sorry to have, keeping you.
No, that's fine. I'm feeling bad for all the viewers that this snack came up. So
Now, sometimes it happens, we yesterday we had a totally glitch-free program. We had so many presentations from so many parts of the world, Philippines, USA, and there was absolutely no problem. And today this is creating all the kind of problems. I don't know why.
happens. It's part of technology.
Yeah, technology it creates a problem, but our team is a very efficient. I'm sure they'll take care of it.
For sure.
So when did you just for chit chat for those who are on the line? So when did you reach USA, ma'am? When did you?
It's been 20 plus years.
Oh my goodness! Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's great. So what was your motivation for going to USA, and now how you're feeling?
Went to present a paper for a conference, met a few people here, and then decided to move. And also got married to somebody here.
That's great. That's great, ma'am.
So can that be made bigger, or will you be clicking the slides, or how does it work?
You can gesture for a next one. So I think our team will go to the next slide.
All right. Okay. All right. So I think we can go on the slide 2. That's what I was talking about.
Abhinavji, put it on slide mode. Put it on slide mode.
You can actually do presentation mode if you want.
No, I'm sorry. Go it on the presentation mode, not on slide mode. Abhinavji? Put on the slideshow.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The slide is on, sir. It's visible.
On the slideshow, put it on the presentation mode.
Yeah, I've done that. If ma'am, you can let me know which slide I need to start with.
So maybe yes, that's a good one. That's good.
Sure.
So I was talking about the classification of nanomaterials, the way they are classified here, like you can see 0 dimension, 1 dimensional, 2 dimensional. And so this is how it keeps going for different dimensions. Next, please.
Next.
Next slide. Thank you. The main types of nanomaterials that are intentionally produced are these 4 types. This is a very new field, so we are still trying to understand what exactly nanomaterials are. But for now, even with a lot of there is some audio disturbance. Can you mute, please? Can you mute? Somebody is talking. I get it. Thank you. So carbon-based, inorganic metal-based, dendrimers, and nanocomposites. These are the 4 branches. If you were to sum up nanomaterials that are mainly produced today, these are the intentionally produced ones. Next, please. So let's look at each of them really quickly, not in too much details, because my main issue or the main topic is the splitting of water. So carbon-based are these nanotubes, as you must have heard of nanotubes and the Buckminster fullerenes and so many other types of where the carbon are either dots, they are flat sheets, the sheets get rolled up to form new tubes, or they become 3-dimensional carbon nanodiamonds. So these are the different carbon-based 0, 1, 2-dimensional materials. Next, please. The next slide talks about inorganic nanoparticles. These are typically made of metal and different types of metals in their sulfide, oxide compounds, or sometimes even organic compounds are used at nano level. Nano means 10 to the negative 9, like I said. And so that's the level we are looking at. Next, please. These are dendrimers. Dendrimers are very popular, hyper-branched, globular kind of architecture. And they are different sizes, again, available. They're called grafts and dendrons and all kinds of different branch nanoparticles called dendrimers. And then the next one. These are nanocomposites. So these are the best of both worlds, as they say. They are hybrid or hetero materials. They are classified on the basis of 2 things: the phase in which they are dispersed and the substance that is getting dispersed. So if the phase in which it is dispersed is a polymeric, then we call it polymer materials. If it is a non-polymeric like metal or ceramic, we call it as non-polymeric. So those are the main ones. All right, next one, please. Yeah, so the popular ones that are applications of these are mainly in construction materials so far, and information technology. A lot of work is also being done in drug delivery and medical science, but the ones I'm going to talk about are the last two blue ones, which is energy, where you can get clean renewable energy by water splitting and using up the excessive carbon dioxide, which is posing a threat to environment today. How to use up that CO2, that is where nanoparticles are helping. And also environmental remediation. We are generating dirty water, clean water, wastewater, so much population. So how do we get clean water out of that? So those next one, please. So this is what I'm going to talk about: water splitting, carbon dioxide capture, and artificial photosynthesis, real quick. And then the cleaning things are nanofiltration, desalination, and magnetic purification. So that's what the presentation will be about. I'll be giving you a review of what's happening in these fields. I chose these two topics because of the fact that this pandemic told us that a small virus can come and destroy our lives and put it on a standstill. So we were lucky we could figure out a vaccine. Suppose tomorrow this problem is going to occur where there is water shortage. What are we going to do? We can't literally start digging a well when we are thirsty. And hence these two topics are very relevant for us and the coming generations, and we must pay attention to these two topics. So nanotechnology for these two. Please move ahead. So I think you missed a slide, but the one before that. Right, thank you. Number 12, please. Number 12. Thank you so much. So the right side of this slide is telling you the science of water splitting in short. As you can see, the red arrow, the water molecules, two water molecules are giving 4H plus and oxygen. That's the oxidation. And then on the top right corner where there's a black arrow, it's showing those 4 hydrogen ions, that is protons, are getting converted to hydrogen gas. So formation of oxygen on one side, formation of hydrogen on the other side. And that's water splitting for you. But for the longest time, it has been a very difficult reaction because thermodynamically, it requires 237 kilojoules of energy per mole of water to give oxygen. This requires co-catalyst. So the sunlight must have so much energy for 1 mole of water, right? So to help aid this, to reduce this activation or this energy, lower the activation energy, we use co-catalysts. And those co-catalysts are those red and black semicircles that you see on the outer side of that blue sphere. They are the co-catalysts. That's where nanotechnology has come to help. These co-catalysts are helpful in water splitting. On the left side of the screen of this slide, you can see the co-catalyst being used. They are the metal-free hybrid carbon quantum dots, CQDs. So that black thing that you see are the quantum dots, the carbon quantum dots, nanodots. And that net-like structure in the bottom is the actual carbon 3, C3N matrix. Now, what happens is what kind of a matrix is given? The sunlight will fall and the carbon quantum dot, which acts as a semiconductor, will release electrons, right? And these electrons will go to the outer side to overcome this. Basically, these carbon dots are there. So they harvest the infrared and visible radiation, sending these electrons from carbon quantum dots to those inner carbon quantum dots. And the holes come to the outer layers of C3N. Now, these holes will break the water protons, to break the water to give protons, right? Just like it's shown in the oxidation red arrow. And those 4 protons, which are positively charged, they will be attracted towards the carbon 3N, where the electrons are being formed, and they undergo reduction there, right? So that way, the electrons are, the protons are moving inside and the holes are remaining on the top. So they don't recombine. And also the problem of oxygen and hydrogen recombining and forming an explosion does not happen. So by putting these carbon dots intermingled with these mesh of carbon 3 nitride, we have separated the two. So that's how those tiny, tiny dots are helping as co-catalysts by taking up the electrons and reducing the hydrogen and giving up the holes and oxidizing the water there. So that's the one way of overcoming the problem of the overpotential, as well as not causing the accidental explosions of carbon and oxygen mixing, because they need to be nearby. But if they are nearby, the problem is they combine and form explosion. So now we have created this kind of a sandwich where the electrons are going inside and the holes are coming outside. Next slide, please. So here the left side is showing a nickel metal. Another way of doing this is by using a MOF. MOF is another nanomaterial called metal organic framework, where there is metal, nickel is the metal here being used, and the organic framework is this huge ligand. The organic chemists in the room may know it's a benzoic acid pyrene ligand, huge substance. So this pyrene ligand will transfer electrons to nickel oxide clusters. There's multiple nickel oxide, like nickel 3 oxygen 16, that kind of a cluster. And this kind of thing will give the electrons to the cluster, and that cluster will then reduce hydrogen ions from the neighborhood water to H2, which is hydrogen gas. So here the co-catalyst is also not required because we have sandwiched everything together. So we have sandwiched this metal and organic framework. They are the composites where I can use, this can be used in any pH, any medium pH. And they are actually, this structure that you see, this yellow structure, it's called a belt, nano belt, because it's two-dimensional. And so it's like a thick gaddi, jaise rakhi hui hai. So that kind of a belt it is. And so this belt undergoes all kinds of reaction, whereby again, there is no explosion happening. So next slide, please. I'm not sure why the right side is not opening, but let's move ahead. So this, I'm not going to go in details at all. This is beyond the scope of this talk, but I'll just explain that this is different schemes of creating semiconductors at nano level. So whether you can use, there are many ways you can create a semiconductor. You can do doping, you can do dye sensitization, you can do valence bond, potential engineering, all kinds of things. So we are not going there, but these are some of the ways in which the semiconductors at nano level can be created. Next slide, please. So the next slide talks about the global carbon project. The carbon footprint is being, after pandemic had kind of brought the life to standstill, but now they are hoping, or they're kind of predicting that it's going to go up again. So we are releasing a lot of carbon dioxide. With NGNs, we are working, and this carbon has to be now controlled, because too much carbon dioxide, we all know, can create havoc, right? It not only causes greenhouse effect, our glaciers are melting, sea levels are increasing, all kinds of things are happening which we don't welcome. So then what do? You capture this unnecessarily created excessive CO2. So that's the first thing we can do. And that's where, again, nanotech helps. So next slide, please. So this is how the first place where nanotechnology helps in carbon dioxide capture. Excessive CO2, which is there in the atmosphere, can be captured, especially through the flue gas. Flue gas is the gas coming out of chimneys in reactors and factories. And if you can fit this kind of a nanoparticle-based based gadget there, atomic level zeolite is being used. Zeolite, right? And its name is a very specific name, as you can see there, SSZ13. It's an octagonal pore in which carbon dioxide, as you can see in the top right corner, that blue CO2 molecule is held there. So when carbon dioxide and nitrogen mixed gases pass through this chimney, and if you have this substance there, they will fish out, they will catch up CO2 molecules and hold there. And by the way, this has been proved by the neutron diffraction analysis that CO2 molecule is held in that atomic level pores. Zeolites are very strong rock-like substances. They are very tough, and they can pass, and they can be used for many, many, many years, right? So therefore we can use carbon dioxide capture using nanomaterial zeolite here as shown in this picture. Next slide, please. Right. So this picture talks about another way. What do you do after you capture CO2? You capture it, but can you put it to some good use? And yes, we can do carbon dioxide conversion, electrochemical conversion of carbon dioxide to fundamentally commercial products. So the electrochemical electrolyzer is in the center. You see the CO2 coming out. You can use renewable energy like solar and wind power to electrolyze, to electrochemically reduce this CO2, right? And cause substances that are viable. For example, here it shows methyl glyoxal or furandiol. They're all precursor of resins, plastic industry, pharmaceuticals, and many more. So this can be done by using CO2. Now, the nanomaterial that's popularly used here is nickel, ruthenium, rhodium, palladium, oxides, phosphides, and sulfides, right? The nanoparticle. For the hydrogenation, literally hydrogen addition or hydrogenation of CO2. So this CO2 that is captured is further added on with hydrogen to create methanol and all such substances, which are very much viable or cash products, as we call it. So that's what is being shown here as electrochemical conversion. Next one. Just like we can do electrochemical conversion, the captured CO2 can also photocatalytically converted. Photo means sunlight. So electrical current, with electrical current also we can do it. And with sunlight also we can do it. Just like we had seen water splitting with sunlight, we can also use carbon dioxide and reduce carbon dioxide with that same thing. So water is splitting, giving H plus and O2. And then we are using that H plus ions to reduce carbon dioxide to give either methane or methanol or formaldehyde or different types of compounds that you can think of and using this. So this thing that you're seeing like a sphere, that's actually the quantum dot. It's less than like 20 nanometer size. And the typical things that are being used for the quantum dots are, they are semiconductors which are specifically like CQD, carbon quantum dots, or perovskite. So perovskite is like calcium titanium oxide, for example, or mxene. Mxene is a very if you Google this word, it's a big word in nanotech right now. So mxene is transition metal carbides and nitrides. So that is what mxenes are. So all these quantum dots are created and they will undergo this kind of reduction of that carbon dioxide. So you capture the CO2, you clean the earth, clean the atmosphere of CO2, and then you produce a fuel, which can be further used for various things. Not just for fuel, but you can use it for pharmaceuticals and so many other substances, right? So they are ideal photocatalysts because they have very high surface area, they have more active sites, very stable, and low toxicity. Yeah. So next one. You cannot complete simply things without artificial photosynthesis. So what this means is, look at the bottom right picture here. You can see those rod-like structures. They are actually cobalt oxide nanocrystals. Their size is like 8 diameter, as I've written there. So these cobalt oxide nanocrystals will split the water again to give hydrogen. And then nanotubes they're connected with branches. They're connected with branches to each other where electrons can flow from one place to another. And these electrons are then further used to react with CO2 and produce methanol. So here you are using electrons to produce the CO2 in the presence of water and hydrogen. And then electrically, you are creating the substance that is methanol. This was inspired from plants. Plants do the same thing. They take sunlight, they manufacture carbohydrates. Here, nanocrystals are taking sunlight, they're acting as artificial leaves, and they're converting into carbon products. Not carbohydrates, but maybe methanol and such products. So any of these products are creating substance. Now, after you've reduced this and created these products, you can also tweak it. You can also further advance it by calling it not only artificial leaf, but calling it a bionic leaf. A bionic leaf, as a project I was doing with a student last 2 years ago, they did a project on this. The bionic leaf is something in which they use microbes like Ralstonia or Xanthobacter. This Ralstonia is hungry for CO2. So it feeds on carbon dioxide and hydrogen. And you give it to that body, the Ralstonia multiplies and it produces a large amount of organic substances. So you can see acetic acid. If it's less oxygen, then you'll get methanol. Depending on what are the ambient conditions, you'll get cash organic products coming out of capturing CO2 and converting it with nanotechnology into viable products. So this slide is telling you about artificial photosynthesis, where you can scrub the atmosphere of the excess CO2, which is there due to burning fossils and things like that, and then further convert it with the help of solar radiation to give viable products. Right. The next, this is the last of that lot of CO2. We talked about electrochemical, we talked about photo, we talked about artificial, and this one is conversion using metal organic framework. Again, MOF is a big word, buzzing word in nanotech. So metal organic framework, it's a combination of organic and inorganic, a metal and an organic substance, right? So they typically form that kind of substance. That is what that middle blue thing is. From the left side, you can see blue nitrogens, white hydrogens, and red and gray carbon dioxide being passed inside. Now, when CO2 and H2 are allowed to enter, that's it. They are allowed to enter inside. But the inside that nano structure is such, there is space for hydrogen, but very crammy, small space for CO2. So the CO2 has very little space. It's like calling somebody in your house and saying, hey, we have got only a small chair. So hydrogen is small and it can sit there. But CO2 is a large molecule and it is very crammed. And that cramming causes it to bend. And the bending causes pre-activation. So when this pre-activation happens, all the right amount of energetic states are reached, right amount of kinetic states are reached, and that carbon dioxide has no choice but to add on that hydrogen. So this is called hydrogenation of CO2. There is a very high hydrogenation potential. So normally, if you try to add hydrogen to carbon dioxide, it's not easy. But by using MOFs and creating this tricky arrangement of architecture inside, you bend the CO2 molecule, you make it all stressed out, it becomes pre-activated, and at right position and right electronic state, it adds on hydrogen to give formic acid. So CO2 plus H2 forms HCOOH, as we know. And formic acid is again a precursor for methanol. It's a precursor for so many other substances. So this hydrogenation barrier is needed to add 2 hydrogen atoms to a CO2 molecule is lowered by these metal organic frameworks because of its tricky structure inside. So that's the last part of the energy. All these things that we talked about create energy ultimately, right? They are creating energy in the form of either cash products that can be further used, or they are creating hydrogen that can be used, or they are creating other substances like artificial photosynthesis, and then they can further be used to create energies. So therefore, all these come under splitting water and carbon dioxide usage. Now, the next part or the smaller part of my presentation is cleaning water. So let's go ahead with that. Next slide, please. So this slide shows that the need of clean water. But the question is, from where are we getting the water, right? We have only 2 sources: seawater, which is very salty, and wastewater, which we generate all the time. So there are 3 methods nanotechnology has come up with: nano filtration, nano desalination, and magnetic nano adsorption. So let's look at each of them again. So the next slide will talk about nano filtration. So the left side is a normal filtration diagram. You probably have seen this if you've studied water purification or any simple diagram. So the dirty water is passed through a pump, and it is in this rectangular area where there is, you see the green triangle and the yellow triangle. That is where the nanofiltration membrane is there. So they pass the substances, and depending on all the gunk in water, if the specific gravity of that substance is lighter than water, it floats. If it's heavier than water, it sinks. So whatever is floating is removed by a mechanical device. And then the water is passed through this nano filter to get separation. And on the right side, you can see this nano filter representation. It pretty much works under a limited pressure, but it removes all the harmful contaminants like pesticides, organic macromolecules, but it retains a certain level of minerals like sodium and chloride, and so that it gives a good taste. It will remove calciums and sulfates, big ions, but it will allow small ions. So that's what is shown in this field. Next one, please. So as you can see, the same membrane showing comparison of micro, ultra, nano, and reverse osmosis. Same thing is shown that you can actually, if you could make it, this is a video, but anyway, it's not playing now. As you can see on the left side, everything is filtered out except the monovalent ions. So it's a small separation using a small organic composite nanoparticle scheme, which has a dimension of 0.1 to 10 nanometers. So it's a small, tiny nanomaterial thin film that can pass through which. this water can pass. Now the pressure is not very high, so the energy required is low. You don't need a very high power pump, so you don't need more electricity for it, but you do need a film which is once put there is in place. The difference between reversed osmosis and nanofiltration is reverse osmosis clears everything, so the water coming out is not tasting very good, whereas nanofiltration water will leave certain monovalent ions like sodium and chloride, and that will give a aesthetic sense to water. So that's really what we are looking at here. So the next slide, please. So this is a way where salt water, seawater, how can we purify salt water and make it potable, non-salt, desalination. So the right-hand side picture, the bottom picture shows you a net-like structure in the center. That is a 1 atom thin graphene sheet, and it has a hole inside. Now that hole is wide enough to let the water molecule pass through it, but narrow enough to hold back solvated ions. So if there is salt in the water and that salt is surrounded by water molecules, we call it solvated ion, right? Na aqueous. So that solvated ion is blocked. It's not allowed to pass through that hole, by way of which all the pure water over the period of time, all the pure water will pass through that hole in this sheet, and the salty water will stay on the right hand side, the pure water will go on the left hand side, non-salty water. So that's how desalination is happening, basically on the level of size exclusion, by excluding the size of the larger solvated particles. Another more high-tech nano desalination is happening on the left hand side. Here from the left side, the concentrated salty water is being passed, and this water is being passed through a channel that is lined again with nano-structured membranes. These nanostructured membranes are charged with positive and negative charge, and they will polarize the salt. All the positively charged ions will go to the negative electrode, all the negatively charged ions will go to the positive electrode. And by doing that, they will separate out and go through different channels. Whereas in the center, you get deionized water. So this only works though if you have salt in your, like ions in your water. If there are any organic substances in the water, this capacitive, means charge connected desalination, doesn't work, because capacitive deionization requires polarizing salts. So if you have anything else, we have to go through the activated charcoal and all that to first remove that and then pass through this. So this is again an extremely new technology that is coming up, and it can boom. They add adsorbent polymeric material, and this bring about separation of charges, positive ions, negative ions, and deionized water can pass through this. So that's nano desalination. And then the next one. So magnetic nano adsorbents, they are very much in a lab right now. They have not come commercially yet, but still studies are being done. As you can see on the top left corner is your regular effluent treatment plant. So they work in 3 steps, these mag nano adsorbents. First, the effluent from the secondary treatment is treated with these adsorbents, magnetic nano adsorbents. That means they'll absorb the micropollutants on them. Adsorption is a surface phenomena. And on the right hand side, I have some names here. Like for example, for antibiotics, micropollutants, a vinyl polymer nanoparticle has been put to use. This has been used. For a uranium micropollutant, phosphoramide nanoparticles are used, like that. So there are various things used. Again, they're very limited in number because this is the newest of the nanotech right now, but still so much work is being done. Well, then this micropollutant laden adsorbed particles are sent through magnetic field. And when they pass through the magnetic field, there's a clear-cut separation of purified water on one side and the micropollutant loaded magnetic nanoadsorbents on the other side. And then these guys can be again reused. They can be cleaned up and reused. So they are reusable, they are recyclable, and you keep getting this this purified water every time it goes. This is a conceptual presentation. Magnetic water purification is not yet on the commercial level anywhere. They are using silver ions that are doped on Fe3O4, iron 3 oxide, Fe3O4, that is nanoparticles. And so still the work is being done. So that's about the cleaning of the water. Next slide, please. So here is the deal. There are some concerns in the world about nanotechnology, and these are the 3 concerns, are the left bullets I've written. Some people say nanoparticles are binding to cells, our cells. So they're toxic. They're dissolving and releasing toxic ions. And then some people are also coming up that they have reactive oxygen species. That means they come and oxidize things. So for all these three bullets concerns, these are the three things. The red thing is for binding to cell. If the nanoparticle is binding to cell, the nanoparticle is being coated with negatively charged ions like sulfides. If the nanoparticle is also negative and your cell is also negative, the negatives will repel and it will not attach. So this is being done in all the things that I discussed today. They are doing this kind of a coating with sulfide ions and things like that. If you think that they're dissolving toxic ions, the green thing is there. For preventing dissolution of toxic ions, we can shell them. There are shells being used. Oh, I lost my presentation. The shells are being used. Is the presentation, please, can be shown again, or? Are you still there? Mr. Abhinav? So those concerns have been removed and therefore today this technology is doable. So we have something that we can do about it, and so we are doing that. So all the things that I discussed are pretty much there. They are being put into use, and so we don't have to be scared of nanoparticles. Of course, more research is needed, more continued research is needed to make sure that we have safe things going on. But as of now, we have some remedies also for it. Lastly, I would say that in order to make this as a part of our life, we must have one mantra. And that mantra is anything that you do in invention as a scientist, a responsibility of the scientist is to make sure it is sustainable. We cannot create something new at the cost of destroying what is already present. So sustainability is a big word, and nanotechnology should also be sustainable. So for that, a couple of people are involved. Policy makers who are in the government or things like that, big officials, they should be probably thinking of green nanotechnology principles as regulations, law about that. What are the regulations? How are people disposing of their things? How are we making sure we are not spoiling the environment? So certain regulations should be there in the picture. They can also give tax and business incentives. Policymakers can do that. They can give tax incentives so that there can be funding available, so that people will invest in this technology. Scientists must do the part of the life cycle assessment, or which we call environment impact assessment of these things. So that study has to be continued and done. And then, of course, the job of industry will be to have performance standards set up. So when they are selling a nanoparticle or when they're creating a commercialization of this technology, they must have certain standards that is being maintained. And if all these are in place, then I think that was the last slide. If you can show the last slide, please. So it's the third, I think the 27th slide. Yeah, so these are the four things that I was talking about: policymakers, scientists, and industry representatives. If all these people are in place, that means if the regulations are in place, if there's funding, if the performance standards are set up, and the scientists are looking at the life cycle assessment, then it will help foster and promote the sustainable nanotechnology, and which will then boom. So we want nanotech, but it must meet sustainability. So these are all the credits I can give, the next two slides. And if you can show the last slide, I will leave you. These are the credits that I've taken help of when it comes to pictures and stuff like that. And then the last slide has a small quote for you, all of us scientists. So the best way to predict the future is to invent it. And that's where the emerging trends need to be today. So good luck to all of you for nice food of thought for emerging trends, and hope to see some of you at least get a pang of these nanotech and get us going for some place where we would like to have a sustainable earth. Thank you very much. I think you're on mute. I couldn't hear. I wish you all a very nice and brainstorming day for some good presentations, and all the best for the second day of your conference. Thank you.
Hello. Yeah. Ma'am, are we audible right now?
Yes, now you are. Yes, thank you.
I hope if you remember India, we have a problem of power cut. And we are facing it tremendously over here. We are switching from the inverter to the real power line, and then power line to inverter. Maybe that is one trend that we actually now need to think about in India, so that
Yes.
doesn't create much of a problem.
Yeah, we need some energy source, real good
Yeah,
energy
ma'am.
source. All of us, not just India. I think lot of places. But never mind. It's part of life. It happens. I hope that the audience were able to hear my talk at least to some extent.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I would request there is one of our fellow teachers who wants to ask a question. So I'm handing it over to her, sir, right now.
Okay.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Ma'am, actually, carbon dioxide is produced in photosynthesis, is used in photosynthesis. So now, how your project will use this carbon dioxide which is produced in your project? What will be the commercial use?
No. So they have, so commercially, what is the issue here is capturing the excess CO2 and converting it into its hydrogenated products. So there are two ways we can do this. So if you look at photosynthesis in plants, the first reaction is water splitting, right? There are dark and light reactions. So one of them is water splitting, which requires most energy, and plants just do it like that. So what we are doing is we are trying to imitate the plants. Instead, we are using catalysts, and that catalyst helps us lower the energy, and so we can use the CO2 just like plants and create product, right? Create the substances like. So how do we do that? We are not plants, we are not chloroplasts. So we are using nano dots that use nano catalysts. So they are using sunlight, they are splitting the water on one hand, and then that water splitting hydrogen that comes out, the proton, we are using that with the captured CO2. And they are getting converted by three ways. Either electrically, they are getting converted by reduction to CH2O, or they are getting converted with the help of light energy, or thirdly, with the help of microbes. These microbes eats carbon dioxide, eats hydrogen, and in its body, it creates acetic acid or formaldehyde. So it's an indirect way of creating products from CO2. Did that make sense? I think she's frozen. Did that make sense? Did I answer your question? Hello, I think I lost you again. I can't hear you. Did that answer your question? Did that answer your question? Any other questions?
Madam, is this splitting of water energetically cost effective?
Come again, I could not hear. Splitting of water? Energetically possible.
Ma'am, is this splitting of water cost effective?
Cost effective. Okay. So yeah, as of now, it's not. But with nano substances used, that's what they're predicting. That if you use nanomaterials, the input energies are much lower, surface areas are much higher, and they're proving to be really quantum efficient. So like, for example, with quantum dots, 18% quantum efficiency is being reached. With the MOFs, about 7% quantum efficiency is being reached. That's what is being published. So it needs to be more, developed, is what we are saying. So yeah, it is definitely energy efficient. If you try to split water without catalyst, it's impossible. With catalyst, it is somewhat possible. But if you reduce the catalyst size to nano, then it is really increasing the efficiency. Yeah. Any other questions?
Ma'am, for having this session with us, and you told a broader spectrum of splitting of water and cleaning of water using nanotechnologies and its commercial uses. Thank you so much. We are pleased to have you here today conducting this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and you're all the best to all of you. Have a nice day.
Hello, we will start in next 5 minutes. I would request everyone to stay connected with us. Thank you so much. The next guest speaker we have with us today to conduct a special session for us is Professor Dr. Mona Purohit. Dr. Mona Purohit is currently working as a Dean, Faculty of Law, BU Bhopal, and also serving as member, Executive Council, BU Bhopal since 2020. She holds an extensive experience of more than 2 decades teaching postgraduate and graduate in the field of law. Dr. Purohit has done Masters of Law in Modern Legal Studies and was awarded PhD in the year 2004. And her topic of research was critical study of wildlife law and its impact on tribes. She has done her LLD postdoctorate in law in 2020. She also worked as a consultant for 2 years project of National Law Institute University and United Nations Fund for Population Activities UNFPA on PCPNDT Act. She has 2 book publications and 3 chapters published with renowned publishing house. She has presented around 21 articles and papers with national and international journals. She has won many renowned awards in her area of expertise. Her area of interest and expertise includes legal advice, business,
Am I audible to all? May I start with the session? Anyone can just message me if I am audible to all of you. Am I audible? One of you, if you can say this to me, that yes, I am audible, I will continue with the session. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. A very warm good morning to all the participants, and a very much I can say thanks to all the organizers for giving me full opportunity for sharing my thoughts with this intellectual audience. I am just trying to share my PPT. If it is visible to you, please let me know that this is. There is again unable to share the PPT is a caution. What is the reason? Entire screen, yes. Please. Still there is a problem for sharing my PPT. I think you are. Please share your. Either. Hello. I am unable to. Yes, please share. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, it is on sharing mode. Thank you so much. This is a very well done. Oh, there is a problem. Just a minute. This PPT is not on the complete screen mode. It is difficult for me to see the PPT in whether it is possible. Hello. Very difficult. First, just come to the first PPT, please, because I'm unable to see the PPT in proper format. Okay. The message box has to be set. Not very much clear. Okay, let's see. Thank you for sharing this PPT with me. I just try to convey my message to all of you through this PPT. Maybe there is the coordination gap between the presenter and between me. So just try to bear it with the topic, which is the theme of this conference, this international conference, is emerging trends in multidisciplinary research and innovation. So if you are going to see this, that is giving us 4 areas which we should discuss. First, what are the emerging trends, and those emerging trends should be related to research and innovation. It means, what does research means? What does innovation means? And especially that research or innovation should limited with the multidisciplinary nature. We are not going to discuss, or we are not going to limit ourselves by limiting to particular discipline. What is the aspect, what is the object of this international conference? I think it is to discuss how we can work together being the multidisciplinary researcher, and how innovation and multidisciplinary research will perform in future due to the some emerging trends. So this is what we are going to discuss. In next slide, please. So the next slide is saying, can you, hello, can you forward the next slide, please? Next slide, please. Thank you so much. So we are very well versed with this issue, that ultimately who are responsible to done research and the innovation. Normally we think that universities and some other institutions are responsible for this. So the role of universities was what? The previously universities were limited for dissemination of the knowledge, the education and the research, and their work was supposed to be completed with these 3 parameters. But with the globalization, or you can the industrialization, and due to the technical development, there are more roles which are allotted to the universities, or which are supposed to be done by the university. Due to these issues, what are the recent role which our university is supposed to do? That are the resource mobilization. It means, if you are working as a researcher, as an innovator in any university, in any higher education institution, you are not limiting yourself that just doing research is not suffice for you. What is expected from you? It is expected that you should also involve yourself for the resource mobilization, the funding, everything, right? This is what the expectation. Second, your knowledge about the technology. Just now we are witnessing that due to the electricity, we are facing trouble. If we are not techno savvy, we are still facing problem by sharing our PPTs. So what are the use of technology? Without technology, a particular researcher or any work which is required to be shared with others is impossible nowadays, right? Online issues or any technical issues. Next, the commercialization. Maybe you are a very good researcher, you are too intelligent, but it is useless, it is immaterial until and unless you can seal it. It is used for the public at large. If you are not gaining anything, if you are not uh, gaining any requirement, you are not taking care of this, because ultimately, for how long you can provide the service at cost. You want that commercialization has to be there, so that the product, the innovation which you are doing should be within the public domain, right? Amongst. And next thing which is supposed to be done by the universities are the collaboration with the industry and enterprises. There are new ideas where we are seeing that the emerging trends require that entrepreneurship has to be seen by the researcher. Until and unless your object being a research is not targeting to the enterprises, it is of no use. It is useless, and any research which is useless is of no credibility, you can say, right? And social benefit, of course. In spite of having all the parameters which we have discussed, that it should be commercial in use, it should be beneficial for, but ultimate aim of any innovation and research is for the social benefits. So being the multidisciplinary researcher, what is expected by you, that all those parameters should be consulted, should be known to you. How you will aware about this? For this, we are going to see our next slide, right? In our next slide, hello, please, yes. This is what the basic idea of multidisciplinary research and innovation. What does innovation means and what does multidisciplinary research? Actually, there are few synonyms which are used, which I will discuss in later on. But multidisciplinary researcher is a technique of research where tools from different science and discipline are used to find an explanation for the suggesting being studies. So any topic, anything which you are taking care, if you are supposed to discuss anything, you cannot do it with your own vacuum. You, being a social animal, we are always hearing that being a social animal, we are interdependable to each other. Same with the research. Although you are doing your research in your particular discipline, maybe it is science, the chemistry, the physics, or maybe you are from law discipline, social science, humanities, number of disciplines. But you cannot work in vacuum. You cannot work in a watertight compartment of your discipline. If you would like to work in any area, maybe that is going to convergence with the other. So there is a requirement of physical, chemical, mathematics, computer science, engineering, social science. There will be a collaboration between these areas, and that could be considered as the multidisciplinary research. Innovation I will discuss later on. When being a researcher, you will do research, how you can say that you have invented something or you have innovated something, that we are going to discuss. Please come to the next slide, which going to explain you that being a researcher, you will not get confused. Please go to the next slide. Being a researcher, you will not get confused with very important issue. Please go to the next slide where I am going to discuss. Thank you so much. That is very, very important point. Most of the scholars get confused that whether interdisciplinary research, multidisciplinary research, intradisciplinary research, cross-disciplinary research, and the transdisciplinary research are the same thing or no. As our complete theme is about the multidisciplinary research, without understanding the basic concept of interdisciplinary, intradisciplinary, it is impossible. So whenever there is an intradisciplinary, it means there is a one focus point for you. But in multidisciplinary research, various researchers work together, but their process, right? The ultimate object will be the theme, and the object will be the same thing. But there will be a difference between the methodology which is adopted by the researcher, right? They will, for example, anybody, for example, we are being a law student, I would like to do something on the environment. You are being a scientist, one being a political science expert, one being the environmental scientist. They can work different. So how they will work, that is the multidisciplinary. But if there is a collaboration between them, they are interchangeable, then it is not the multidisciplinary. That will become the interdisciplinary entrance. This is the slide which is showing that how can you identify that whether you are involved in the multidisciplinary research or not. Normally, there are the three focal areas, three disciplinary, right? Humanities, natural science, and the social science. That will come, right? Natural science means the hard science. Normally, we use the term hard science for that. So that could be physics, chemistry, right? Any science of the natural science, that is known as the hard science. Second science, which is related to the society, sociology, political science, these all are known as the social science or the soft science. And one very important thing, that is the humanities. These are the three focus area. Maybe you are going to do your work between these three areas. And next slide, I'm going to write. I think you can understand this will considered as the multi-research. That can considered as a multi-research area, right? Next slide, please. So as we see that multidisciplinary research is talking about the interwoven concept, the interlinked concept, the interconnected concept of the areas. So first, research is for whom and for what? As your topic is saying two words, research and innovation. So here I'm going to discuss you sometime. Innovation is a part of research. So how and when, that is what. So research is what? It is a systematic investigation into study of material and sources in order to establish two things. One, facts, and second, to reach new conclusion. It means, first, researcher can do only the discovery part of the development, the new already known knowledge, the new theory is developed from the basic ideas. So the doctrines, the theories, the facts which are already available will be used by the researcher, and by modifying those theories and they can discover new theories, right? They can come up with a solution. But innovation could also be the part of the research itself. Why? Because here the researcher is required that any researcher will first going to invent something and they can develop the innovation part, right? For example, there was a development of the mobile phones. The circuit was developed, the design was developed. But nowadays, every company is having their own design, their own parameters, their own software skill. It means what they are doing. The model first discovered as the mobile was the invention. But after that, most of the researcher, most of the companies are wanting the researcher to do the innovation part. They are not going to discover, they are not going to invent everything new. What they are doing? They are doing innovation. So most of the research are based on the innovation rather than the invention. So I think that is what making you to understand that why the topic of your working is the multidisciplinary research in innovation, right? One person has made the design. The PPT was not sharing with me. You can please. Thank you so much. Next slide, please, because due to the paucity of time, I think I should wrap on. Next slide, please. Yes, this is a very important thing which I would like to discuss with you. Research right and right research. These are the two things, right? It means what? First, please go to the previous slide only. This is a very important thing because research right and right research. Any research, if you are doing correctly or not, will depend whether you are aware of the laws, the policies, the parameters. Maybe it is provided by the UGC, maybe the laws of the India, maybe the various issues discussed in international society. You have to decide, are you doing right research or right research right? Two things are go together, right? You cannot think about the research. So if you want to do the wow research, it is compelling you that which is of your interest should be the right, and the way of research should be right. There is nothing new in the sun, right? Very, very important quote is there, that there is nothing new under the sun. Stealing from one source is plagiarism, while stealing from many is a research. So you are doing right. Ultimately, what you are going to do, you are going to collect the material from various, doing your review of literature and collecting your data. So you have to clarify yourself that you are doing the right research with the research right. Next slide, please. Why research? Why you would like to do research? It is your human tendency. There is a curiosity. If you are curious about that, how to do it, right? To know something from unknowing. If something is not knowing to you, you will be very haphazard. You will not happy with this. You, being an intellectual person, is always interested for searching something new. And if it search is also necessary, because it is always important for the development of the public at large and for the society. If there is no development, you will not get the so many medicine in the corona era. You will able to understand, if there will be no vaccination, what will be the repercussion of that. So this is why we are going for a research. Next slide, please. Right, so we are doing our research for next. What are the most common dependency? Why we are doing research? First, dependency, that all are not aware about the laws. And if you are doing research against any law, you are violating law and you will be punished for that. If there is a design something, if you are not aware about the designing, you cannot prepare a circuit. Maybe you are very good in your technology. Maybe you are very good in anything, right? But if you are not aware about any design, you cannot work multidisciplinary. Language is a very important role. Maybe you are saying, I am very good in in chemistry, but if you are unable to convey your message, what you have researched to the community, it is of no value. So for that, your language should be reflected in your thesis, your work, in your preparation. So language is again a multidisciplinary area. Your consequences, what is the computer? If you are unaware of the computer, nowadays you cannot do something, because you are needed something to go for a plagiarism test. If you are unaware of the technology, you cannot go for the plagiarism. You are unaware of the plagiarism scheme, right? Again, the next thing where you are commonly dependent on multidisciplinary research is the ethics. What is ethically correct is different from different disciplines. For example, maybe we are testing on animal in the health area. If there is one medicine which is developed, and if we would like to test that medicine on the animals, then only you can provide that, you can apply that medicine to the human. So indirectly, if you are taking it in the perspective of humanitarian laws, they will say, no, even the humans are very important and you cannot test them, but you cannot do that. So this is what's the important of multidisciplinary research, that you must aware about the ethics. Next is the history, the prior art search. That is what demanding, right? Review of literature you are writing. Why you are writing review of literature? Because you are acknowledging the work of other by saying that maybe in different disciplines something was happened, you are aware of, you are taking trace of the history, what was already done. Next is the social demands. For example, any research work which we are doing for the scheduled tribes, scheduled caste. But in USA or in other countries, the concept of scheduled caste will not be arisen. So they will not do research on that. But being the humanitarian ground, here, because we are having the category of scheduled caste, it is very important for any researcher to do work. Environment is a common phenomena for all the researcher, right? Sustainable development is required for every field. So environment is important. Social demand, arts is very important. Whether the history is saying any art, Egypt, right? There are so many things. In India, there are so many arts. They are having scientific basis. right? A very Surya Namaskaram is there. So if you are not aware of the art, we cannot go for the multidisciplinary economics and the mathematics. Whenever there is a collection of data and you are unaware of the economics, you are not aware of the mathematics, you cannot justify your data, you cannot analyze, you cannot interpret. It means if you are seeing your school level study, you will understand that the concept was ultimately multidisciplinary. Basic concept of all the field was taught to you, and that is ultimately you are seeing in the NEP also. Next slide, please. Please, 10 minutes before, let me know that my time is going to over so that I can wrap it. Please, next slide. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. इसको भी आप बढ़ा दीजिए. These are the process of data, but I don't think I can only give you the light, right? This is very important. Being a multidisciplinary research, what is important to know? First, every field is governed by law. Whether you are doing your research in chemistry, physics, mathematics, or any other biological science or any other field, until and unless you are aware about the laws that what are already prohibited, you will not do the multidisciplinary research. Second, knowledge of law, ignorance of knowledge of law is no excuse. You cannot say that I cannot read and write. I am not aware about the law, that what is patent law, what is prohibited. I have already tested this thing and I came up with this research solution and you should accept. No, that will be punishable. So these are being a researcher, you must be aware about the property rights, the patent and the copyright that I will discuss in later on. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. There are a number of slides. I will. These are the important concepts for the multidisciplinary research. First, you should aware about the IPR. Especially, I am not talking about the trademarks. I am just talking about IPR, patent, and the copyright, because every researcher is ultimately going to get protection under these two laws. First, either if they are doing their doctrinal research, which is not having any innovation invention, then their work will be protected under copyright. Otherwise, their work will be protected under patent. They must be aware about the Bular provision. Bular provision is like maybe previous work was already get patented, right? And before 3 years of that, मान लीजिए 20 years के लिए, that is the mark for 20 years. Patent is generally for how many years? 20 years. So 20 years is about what? They are saying, hello? Yeah, please. So it is what saying for Bular provision, it means that if a researcher is not aware what they can do. One patent was for 20 years. But what you can do before 3 years means 17 years. After 17 years, you can involve yourself to the new research program. You are not barred from this area, right? Next is the plagiarism. Plagiarism is very important. You know, UGC made it compulsory, that I will discuss in. These are the area which we are discussing. The next slide, please move. Please move to the next slide. I will do. This is the chain. As I told you, that first chain is creating, right, and invention. Second is the innovation. Third is the commercialization, then the protection, and then is the enforcement. So this is the researcher, which any research of any field will do it with these process. So all the multi-research are demanding that you must aware of these issues, right? First, you are going to give the creation, invention, then you are going to innovate that, then you are applying for the commercialization. This, if you have already commercialized, somebody is going to violate your rights, then you get protection and then it will be enforced. Next slide, please. As I told you that I am going to give you the parameter about the innovation, right? Invention means your new idea for product and the process, right? Product and process are already get confirmed from our legal field, and that first we are going to invent, and once that is already invented, it is not bar for the researcher to go for the innovation. So innovation and invention both are the part and parcel of any research. Next slide, please. This is very important to know. No researcher can jump directly to the innovation from the fresh idea. It is compulsory. It is mandatory for you to first go for invention, then go for innovation. It has to be keep in mind during your research. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. This is the idea that first there is an idea, intellect. The second is a creativity, that we are having one bulb with the tungsten. After that, nowadays there are number of innovation. For example, in same bulb there are number of design. In same bulb there are, in the similar way, we are having the internal part of that bulb should be changed. So various issues can be developed, right? It is definitely important for us to get involved in innovation, because innovation are more beneficial of the society, because innovation are cheaper. Once it is invented, it is always very costly. For example, you can see the last decades, last before, right, when the mobile was invented, and nowadays what is the cost of the mobile? When the laptop was invented, the computer was invented, and what the cost and what is the cost? So just because of innovation, you are seeing that it is ultimately beneficial for the society at large, because it will be the cheaper one. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So I'm going to give you the idea where the researcher, the person who is involved in multidisciplinary research should aware. First, the insertion between the intellectual property right and research. No research can be done without knowing IPR. If you are saying I am not aware of the IPR, it means you are going for a plagiarism, you are going for a cheating. Any case can be filed against you if you are not aware, because copyright and patent are the rights of the person who have already worked in the field. That's why you are discuss the review of literature. You are supposed to go for the prior art search. You are going to go for a plagiarism report, so that you are not going to violate the rights. Your rights will be created after you will submit your research. But during your research, what you can do, you can violate the right of the other person. So it is a very important guideline for the researcher, that maybe they are from any field, but they should be well versed with the patent and the copyright, because any research will not completed without knowing this law. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, this is the natural of intellectual. What are the IPR? What they are saying? First, they are saying monopoly. Monopoly means once any researcher did something, any invention was done, so what can be issue? They can be get protected under copyright, and any upcoming researcher is duty bound to protect the rights of the previous researcher. So the monopoly is of the right with the previous researcher whose work was already done and which is already in the public domain. IPR have to be renewed from time to time to keeping it upright, right? Except the copyright and the trade secret. For example, you are aware about the bhujia wala sev, right? That is under the trade secret. If you are wanting to innovate, if you are wanting to innovate something new, what they are not getting the copyright, they are not getting the patent on that, but what they did, they get the trade secret. They are saying we are not going to publish the secret of our material into the public domain by getting, because if you want to get something patented, you are supposed to discuss that before the patent office, and they are going to disclose before the public. So that trade secret and the copyright are need not to be renewed time to time, otherwise you are supposed to renew it. Copyright. And the next important thing, that IPR belongs to is the territorial nature, except the copyright which is covered under Berne Convention. It means if you are getting your patent, you are getting your patent in India. It means if somebody has did some research in any other countries and their protection was not internationally protected, they get their patent protection is Britain. And it means you can, being an Indian, can do something new research in that, and you will get protected in India because IPR is generally territorial in nature. But copyright is not so. Why I am saying so? For example, this is the international conference. I have prepared my PPT. I am sharing it with. If somebody will share it because it is internationally gone, or somebody, for example, you are using some website, the person from Germany has published something, you can take and publish in India, but it will be a violation. Why it is so? Because it is come under the Berne Convention, and Berne Convention protected the copyright issue as a international area. So I think you will able to understand that the renewal and the jurisdiction of the copyright is more wider than the patent. You must understand that. And what is the utility of IPR? Why people are saying go for the patent? Why government is encouraging you that being a researcher, you must, marking are there for patent. How many patents you are having, right? How many books are you are having? What does it mean? It means they are wanting you to protect your original thoughts. What is your originality should be, because by that you can assign your work, you can gift your work, you can sold your work, you can license your work, and through that you can commercially gain something, commercial benefit for the researcher, so that you can interested for that I will get the fellowship, I will get the scholarship, and after completing my research, what I can say, I can do, assign the work, I can gift, and in that way I can you can say earn the money, and ultimately that is good for the public at large. Next, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, it is always a brain. This is the concept of IPR. I think I have already discussed much about that it is always your brainchild. You are expected, just a researcher, what you are doing to discuss, and then in researcher, what you are doing, what is novelty? What is newness in your research? That's why in your review of literature, you are discussing what that was already discussed by the previous author, and this is new which I am going to come up with. What are the benefit of the society? That is what expected. It means ultimately your original thought has to be saved in future. Next slide, please. These are the two things. First, if you are working for the fundamental research or doctrinal research, I'm not going to discuss what is doctrine. It means you are doing on a secondary based data. So if your resources are secondary, it means your work will be get protected under copyright. You will not get protection under patent. In brief, I'm saying. And if you are involved in the applied research or the empirical one, it means you are collecting the first-hand data for yourself, and which will be limited of use. For that, you will get the patent, not the copyright. You will get the patent as well as the copyright on your thesis, which you are supposed to publish. But the work which you have invented will get the patented. Simultaneously, the work which you are going to publish in the book form, in the article form, will get protected under the copyright. That's why nowadays people are suggesting that just go for the more empirical research that rather than just for the doctrinal research. Next, please. Thank you. These are the requirement of patentability. As I told, without knowing the law of patent and IPR, one researcher cannot do the wonderful research. For that, you must aware of that your work should have novelty. You are supposed to prove that what will be the noteworthy contribution of your utility of your work, right? Next, the involvement of inventive step, second patent. Just correlate it with your research. Newness of your research, same way you are going to prove it in the patent. Second, inventive on the invention. So inventive step is necessary for the patent protection as well as for your research. If there is no invention, there is no innovation, you cannot say that I am going to do the research. Same, just saying the similarity between these. And next is the industrial use or application. It means if you did a wonderful research, but which is harmful for the society or which is not useful for the society, will not get patented, as well as it will not be considered as the research, right? So your understanding about the requirement of patentability as good, as important as you are aware about the research. Next slide, please. For example, if you want to go for the research in India, you must aware that in India, process as well as process and product are both patented. It means what? You are involving yourself for one medicine. The process was adopted for making Disprin. I'm just giving an example. Disprin was made up. Name was there, right? Disprin was made up with the process, and the process was just by steaming those things. What are the chemicals? And that was steamed and made the Disprin. That is an example. But what you can say, you can adopt the different process and you can prepare a same medicine with different process. So in this way, what you are going to, you have must heard about the genetics medicine. Why they are so cheaper? Because the process, the product was the same. But what is provided in Indian law, that you can change your process, you can change your methodology, and you can come up with a new solution. That is what the uniqueness of your work, right? So what you should not do is very important. What you should do is important as well as. Without understanding this IPR scheme, you will not indulge in research, because it is already mentioned, right? That what is important, what you should not do. First, you should not do research which is contrary to the well-established natural laws. Something which is against, you are saying that it is against the natural law. You should not do that kind of thing. It is already there, which is frivolous or claiming everything. That under the roof, this is mine, which is already known to the public, that sun is like this, you should not do. Machines that give more than 100% performance, it is impossible. These kind of work should not be given. That is already done. Second thing which you should not do, that anything which is contrary to the public order or the morality. Right? It is already mentioned in section 3B of the IPR Act. You should go and take the patent right. It means service for house breaking services. Until and unless you get the license, you cannot do research on that kind of work. Nuclear bombs cannot be made without taking permission and license. Next, you should not involve yourself or anything which is commercial exploitation and primary use of invention, which is cause serious prejudice to the health of the person, human, animals, or plant life, or which is prejudice to the environment. It is already mentioned. So before indulging, before involving yourself or the researcher, you must go through these. Next slide, please. Because slides are much, and I think my time is over. Please, next. Yeah. Similarity with research and project, I have already discussed. Next slide, please. Research exemptions are there. Whenever you are going to see that what are the research exemption, whether you should do it or not. So yes, although something which is already covered, but you are being an academician given extraordinary privilege to work on something which will give the fulfill the public mission. So these are the parameters you are going to see, and see that being a researcher, you are having very extraordinary privileges. Next slide, please. Please, next slide. This is Behole Act. I'm not going to discuss because you are not from law field. That is suggestion. Next slide, please. This is researcher must know compulsory license, product and process, and BOLAR provision. As I discussed earlier, that if you want to do that something which is generic medicine, it is the power of the government. Maybe you are a good researcher, you want your work to be patented, but government can take compulsory license for the public at large. Next slide, please. Prior art search is always advised. Prior art search means before the date of your research, you should search the prior art, what is already. For science, it is known as the prior art. In for general things, we are saying the review of literature, but review of literature can use the prior art search. That could be the part and parcel of review of literature, but prior art search is a more wider this thing, right? Prior art search is compulsory for the person who are involving in the research, that what is already done in that particular field. Next slide, please. These are the parameters where you can do your prior art. First, in a proactive research, the state of the art which is already available, whether there is a identical or similar work which is patented, work will get larger protection or not. So already public domain knowledge is known as the prior art search. Next slide, please. Very slow. This is just saying at what stage you will do work. First, it is very good that it will give you the validation of your research. If you are doing your prior art search, you can write that this is the valid point, but right, it will avoid the repetitive research work. It will infringe other. It will not infringe other works. If you have already done prior art search, you will save in future, and it will also give you insight that how new way is the protection. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes. This is before starting your research and during your research, both the time you should involve yourself with the research work, because if you are saying I have did my synopsis in the year of 2019, and at present, if you are not doing your prior art search, maybe there is a possibility from 19 to 2022, there are few research which was already submitted. So you should change your research work accordingly. Next work, please slide. Next slide, please. This is what are the what search and where to search. These are the parameters. Next slide, please. I'm just because it is already done. Maybe next one. These are the ethics, rigor, transparency. I will give you just an insight. Just visit the UGC guideline for that being a researcher, ethics, rigor, transparency, respect. Next slide, please. And these are the next slide, please. These are the parameters. These are the rules. Yeah, right. Your impartiality, in independence, and accountability. These are the 7 parameters, 7 guidelines which are already given by UGC for value underlying research integrity. So to maintain that integrity, all the researcher will involve to see this, that what are the guidelines of the UGC regarding this. Next slide, please. The integrity means the quality of being honest and having a strong moral principle, upholding the research integrity, lack of corruption. It is, of course, you are the researcher, how justifiable you are, how justice, transparency is maintained or not, accountability is there, whether you are maintaining the privacy, somebody has gave you the data on the basis of privacy, and whether you are going to disclose that data, are you in violating the confidentiality of the person, you have to keep in mind. Next thing, please. These are the ethical issues, not the legal one. Next. Term to be understood, that what is sample content. Next slide, please. I will not discuss this much because raw material is where you are discussing. Next slide, please. Informed consent, I think you know it very well. Whenever any researcher is doing research on animals and the human, so that before doing any research on human, informed consent is compulsory, that from you, we are experimenting this medicine and what will be the repercussion, what will be the consequences of those medicine or then. If you are not taking consent, the informed consent from the human being, you cannot involve any human being for your research purpose. One important word that is used for the ethical research is the capability. Whether it is feasible that you can do, are you understood the topic? Do you have the necessary research skill? Are you able that the sufficient time is with you? Are you having the resources? These all are the ethical issues. Next slide, please. If my work will be over, please let me know. My time will be over. Research ethics is like a non-acceptable behavior. Anything which is not accepted by anyone is known as the research. Moral are your inbuilt values, but ethics are the values for the researcher. Researcher is considered here as a community at large, right? So ethics is a professional values, but the morality is your own self. So these are the research ethics which are based on the common sense that what should be done, what is beneficial for the society, what should not be that done, right? Next slide, please. So it is just like a lance. This is what you should know, understanding right and wrong. That torch is reflecting what is the professional behavior. Yes, you are being in medical field, you are going to hamper, you are going to harm something against, because without hampering something, you cannot get innovative work. So that is permissible limit, which is already prescribed. So accordingly, you should decide you are belonging to which field and how much professional behavior is allowed by you. What are the rules of conduct allowed by you? That is not allowed for the social science researcher, that you can harm somebody. You cannot collect the data which is confidential. You are working on the AIDS victim and you are collecting data and you are publishing that data. You cannot do that. So what is your professional behavior should be known to all person, right? For a different discipline, professional behavior can change accordingly you work. Next slide, please. These are the laws which I am discussing in next slide. Please, next slide. These are the parameter integrity. Just go to the UGC website and you will see the humanity aspect, respect of aspect, privacy is what, moral values are what, autonomy is what, everything is given there. Next slide, please. Next, second slide. I think maybe I don't want to discuss. Next slide, please. These are the laws, rules, and regulation. These are three different things. And once being a researcher, you must be aware that what laws are saying, what rules are saying, what regulations are saying. For example, if you are involved in a medical science, so what medical council is saying. If you are involved in legal research, what legal science is. Pharmaceutical institution is there, what pharmaceutical council is saying, that is regulation. Rules are from UGC and NAC, and laws are for the parliament. So you are expected to be aware of all the field, right, where you are working. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. That is very difficult that I am not able to move this slide, otherwise that could be the faster mode. Sorry for this kind of type of research publication. Yes, I think that is very, very important nowadays. Everybody is saying three kind of mistake one researcher can do. One, fabrication. It means you are making up data and result and recording or reporting them without performing relevant research. It means I have relied on the work of others without performing research. Second drawback or work which you can do wrong, which a researcher can do, is known as the falsification. It means you are doing manipulation, you are changing intentionally something. You are knowing that just to prove your hypothesis, you are not very well. Sometimes students are not knowing that even though if your hypotheses are not proved, your research work will be as good as it is proved. But what they try to do, they try to manipulate the data, and that is known as the falsification of the data. For that also you can punish. And third is the plagiarism. If the proportionality of the other person or idea, the process and result, or the word, anything, right? The idea, the process, the result, or any word, without giving them the appropriate credit. That's why you are expected to write the acknowledgement, to write the references, to write the bibliography, to write or cite the word. It means you are saving yourself from the purpose. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Fast mode. These are the overlapping. Next slide, please. Maybe I'm going to let this work. Next slide, please. Oh, that is Lamy publication. Yes, these are the code and policy I am giving you. Nuremberg trial is there. Just go through these policy. There are few international policies, few national policies that write world. The international conference, RAC, RDC must be aware about these, right? So your RDC expert, your RAC expert, they are the journals who are prescribing you that what to write, how many paragraphs should be there, what kind. So industrial review board, there are the industrial review board are there who are supposed to see that. They're the experimental on human and for animals and human being. That is the COPE, WAME, and these are the various committees. UGC is there. Otherwise, there are some institution norms too, which are the funding agency. Maybe you are applying for UGC, ICSSR, Women Commission, anywhere, right? So you are supposed to give that. Next slide, please. Fast. These are the 10 principles of Nuremberg trial. I don't want to discuss. I'm going to sum up. Next slide, please. Just go to the next. Just forward it. Forward. Research plagiarism, you know. Yes, but just that is what I would like to know, discuss with you. Plagiarism means the practice of taking someone else's work or idea in your name. That is the safest point or the golden rule to avoid this plagiarism, that always you should go for citing the material, bibliography, references, and quote your words. There are number of plagiarism. You can paragraph that, you can copy paste, mosaic kind of plagiarism. Self-plagiarism means you have already submitted one published paper and again you are submitting. So these kind of plagiarism should be avoided. I think my time is already over. So next slide, please. And I think I will, if it is next. Penalties are there. That penalties are already given in my slide, that how much penalty will be there. Even for the guide and the supervisor, there are penalties given by the UGC. That is already discussed by me in my slides. Next slides, please. I think I will going to sum up this. These slides will be available to you, and these are the penalties for the supervisor. Next slide, please. Next slides. Yeah, this is very important. Authorship and peer review. Please understand that whenever you are writing something in your research work, you are supposed to write acknowledgement, and that is known as the authorship work. Means if 2 and more than authors are there, you must recognize them. And next is the peer review work. It means the work which is submitted by you for the publication should be reviewed by the research committee, and that research committee will be not biased. They are not any way connected to that. These are the parameters. So that should be keep in the mind by the researcher as well from the peer reviewed committee. Next, next slide. Next. This is the attribution, right? First, utility, the UGC ethical principle, the justification why you are doing, the novelty and the uniqueness, how you are supposed to write what is the noteworthy contribution of your research work. It means you are writing what is the uniqueness, right? And what is the time and the utility of your work. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next. Fast. I don't want to get you in. Yeah, this is very important. The ethical code, the human morality, the combination of both means being a researcher, maybe you find something new which is not ethically correct. You should avoid that. Next slide, please. Next slide. I'm just in my life. That is my observation, that it will be extremely risky to enter into the research part that without knowing research rule, existing practices, IP laws, the patentability, the performing prior art search, the guidelines by the publisher, the guidelines from the institutions, it is always risky. With this, I would like to thank the organizer. My last slide is stating, please come to the next slide. And I think I tried last. Yes, with this, I will thank the organizer for giving me this opportunity to sharing with views with all of you, and I hope that the inspiration from others, not their work. So take inspiration from others, not their work, is my theme of the day. And I would like to thank the organizer for giving me this. Thank you very much. Any query or question for me from my side? Hello.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mona Purohit, for a wonderful presentation. I'm sure our researchers will take, a lot of lessons from your wonderful session, and they'll be very careful in their working. So we thank you very much for this wonderful show, ma'am. So over to Tripti, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay. You are not audible, please. Unmute, I think. You are muted. You are not audible. I'm not. Please, you are not audible to me. Am I audible? You are not audible. Your voice is not coming.
Ma'am.
Hanji, bole. Please continue. Hello. Who is? Hanji.
Okay, ma'am.
Please continue.
My name is Avinav Pradhan. My question is to ma'am, as far as legal research is concerned.
Right.
Yeah,
as
please
far as
continue.
legal research is concerned, ma'am, there is very less scope for non-doctrinal research. Though in your topic you have emphasized the importance of non-doctrinal research in legal discourse also. But
Yes.
we find very few literature available as far as non-doctrinal research is concerned in legal discourse.
It is not available, but now there is a
This is first question. And second, ma'am, as far as multidisciplinary research is concerned,
right.
In legal discourse, ma'am, very few experts are available in this field, ma'am.
Availability is no doubt, Abhinavji. There is a limited person who are doing empirical research in legal field, although it is not right to say that there is a less scope for empirical research in legal field, because every law is enforceable on the society at large. And if you can collect data from society, it means you are taking care of first-hand study. You are searching your data from the society at large, and that will be considered as empirical work for you. So I will say that yes, there is the possibility that most of the researcher can do first-hand study on the empirical research and doing the empirical research. Second question, which you are saying that there are not experts which are doing work on this. For example, if we are working on IPR, for example, if I am working on pharmaceutical law, if I am working on forensic science, if I am working on cyber law, it means I am working with the multidisciplinary until and unless I am well versed with the cyber issues, the technical issues of the cyber or the forensics. I cannot work in a vacuum of legal field. So my suggestion is that you are just going to identify what is exactly the multidisciplinary research, because law researchers are supposed to work with the society, with the humanities. Without any scientific research, you cannot work in a vacuum. They are doing wrong research, or they are not doing proper research, we can say, if they are not doing multidisciplinary research. Because every legal research is going to impact on the society, and we are working with the society, with the social science, with the humanities, or with sometime with the science too. Any other question, Abhinavji? Am I? Is it clear to you or any other queries for me?
Yeah, since we are facing the problem, ma'am, suppose you have said that patent law is a multidisciplinary function where law and as well as technology meets together. But problem lies here, ma'am. If suppose any person will ask me what is when we can say the new chemical entity has enhanced the efficacy without the help of pharmaceutical person engaged in the pharmaceutical sector, we are not able to
That's why
understand these
multidisciplinary.
things.
That's why
We are not able to
multidisciplinary.
understand.
Yes, that's why we are saying that multidisciplinary research are important, because the part which you are unable to justify will be supported by the core researcher who are involved with you. They will give you the insight about the technical area, and you are going to give the legal flourish to that. The legal flavor will be given by you. The legal consequences will be clarified by you, and the basic concept and the idea which is going to be discussed by the core researcher who is involved with you for the multidisciplinary research. This is the whole idea, I think, of this conference too. Any other queries? Is it over you?
Thank you so much, ma'am. You spoke about research methodology points which should be followed by any of the research scholar from beginning to end, especially following the ethics, novelty, and applicability. It was an honor for us to have you conduct this session for us in this ICETMRI 2022. We are pleased to have you, and we are looking forward to have you in more such sessions with us in future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thanks to all the participants for such a visit. Thank you so much. I will take your leave, please.
Going forward now, we have with us our keynote speaker of today, Dr. Saket Jaswani. Dr. Saket Jaswani is B Pharma MBA HR, PhD in HR with a rich experience of 16 years as professor, researcher, certified corporate trainer and coach. He is also pursuing his second PhD from IIM Sambalpur in the area of HR and organizational behavior. Dr. Jaswani is head and professor of School of Management, OP Jindal University, Raigad. His interest areas are HR, organizational behavior, and research. As a teacher and researcher, he is a lifetime member of professional bodies like National HRD Network, Indian Society of Business Management, and presently he is editorial board member and reviewer of various national and international journals of repute. He has an experience of being a resource person for various research methodology workshops and research conferences. He has published 17 research papers in national and international journals and presented 18 research papers in national and international conferences. He has attended various FDPs and workshops. His expertise is in working with statistical package of social science, SPSS, and analysis of moment structures, AMOs, and hands-on experience in structure equation modeling. Dr. Jaswani is a certified trainer and coach. He is also a career counselor and has conducted various training sessions. Dr. Jaswani is a professional trainer. He has also has an expertise in conducting various outbound training programs for employees comprising of team building and adventurous activities. Dr. Jaswani is also an HR consultant for various corporate houses for developing, revising, and implementing HR policies and procedures with special focus on employee retention strategies. We are honored to have you here, sir, as a keynote speaker with us for this ICETMRI 2022. We are glad to have you here. Over to you, sir. We are looking forward to hear from you.
Thank you so much. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, Dr. Saket, welcome, and you are audible.
Thank you, sir. Shall I share my presentation?
Please, please, please.
So is my presentation visible?
Not yet. Now, yes, now.
Yeah, it's not visible, right? It's now visible, right?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, nice. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for as a keynote speaker. I would like to thank Dr. Piyush Kant Pandey, Director, LCIT Group of Institutions, Dr. Himanshu Vaishnaw, and the members of the conference organizing committee for inviting me in this particular conference, international conference on multidisciplinary reservation 2022. So the topic of today's session is research ecosystem. So I would basically want to talk about research actually, and the basics of research. And I would first of all will discuss about the current research trends globally as well as in the context of India. And then we'll move forward about speaking about something about research. What is research? What are the basics of research? Then certain important key concepts that needs to be included and understood as far as researchers are concerned. And then I would also speaking about behavioral aspect of a researcher related to the mindset of the people. Okay. So this particular session, what I'm going to take today is a very basic and a general kind of thing, which every person or the researcher or a student or the faculty members need to take care of. It is just a mentioning of certain important keywords, the terms that are required to be understood by a researcher, right? So I will not go in a very detailed explanation of all the terms, but I will only brief out about those terms. It is your duty, if you are very much keen to do a research, it is your duty to go an in-depth study, to do an in-depth study of all those. Definitely help you to get your papers published in very quality journals. Okay. The agenda of presentation, I will be talking about certain emerging trends of research in two contexts, global as well as Indian context. After that, I will be talking about basics of research. Then I will be about what is analytics, how analytics as far as research is concerned, and we're discussing about the mindset of the researchers. Okay, and what is required actually. Talk about global research ecosystem. Ecosystem is the environment, the surrounding environment within us, and this ecosystem will be specifically related to the research. Okay, so as of in 2018, the World Intellectual Property Organization that has more than 3 million patent filings in until 2018 and mark registrations. These are certain highlights which I wanted you to tell about the research area is concerned. Moreover, the annual global spending on research and development is around US dollars 1.7 trillion. It is consolidated data of all the countries in the world. Okay. Moreover, in the past decade, the world recorded a researcher intensity of 1,417 researchers per million. Researchers intensity means what is the frequency of publications and how many researchers are available as far as the population of the world is concerned. So per million, there were only 1,417 researchers. Moreover, there are 2.2 million publications, patent filings, and nearly US dollars 2 trillion the equipments, research, right? The source is World Economic Forum Annual Report 2019 and 20. The point behind mentioning all this thing is in the global scenario where we exist actually, and what is the contribution of India in this particular research ecosystem. We are going to go through in the next slides. So when we talk about the global priorities in technological innovation, the Global Innovation Index, the report 2020, the Global Innovation Index ranked Switzerland, Sweden, US, UK, and Netherlands as the top 5 countries in research and development ecosystem in 2020. Right, and in the table you can see the names of the various countries and their global ranking under different elements, like overall rank is concerned. So is there. If we talk about the institutions, educational institutions, Singapore is the topmost, followed by Finland and Norway. If you talk about the expenditure on the human capital and research, Korea is the topmost. If you talk structure, Norway is the topmost, right? You will not find India anywhere in this particular table. So it depicts that we are too far away from other countries. We are too backward from other countries, right? As far as Indian research ecosystem is concerned, we are developing, and the government takes initiatives as far as investments are concerned, as far as the creation is concerned for research. So if we talk about the R&D missions and spending of the country's R&D expenditure has tripled in the last 2 decades. It means we are growing, right? And so, if you talk about the education researchers density, as I talked about intensity in the last slide, researcher intensity in India is only 16 per million. It was 1,473 per million worldwide, but in India it is only 2,216 per million, right? And this is only 20% of as compared to China and 4% of Japan. So we are very far. Patents and publications, regarding patent and publications, nearly 75% of the patents filed by the Indians are non-residents, right? So you might be knowing the brain drain. The talents move out of the country and they work at the international locations. We suffer a lot out of regarding this brain drain, right? That's what and the Indians are publishing. They are getting their innovations patented, but out of all the Indians patents publications, 75% of the publications are from Indians who are residing out of India. This is the scenario. It means only 25% reside in India, have their patents publications under them, right? If you talk about university, different role, agencies have different role in the creating of R&D ecosystem in India. So there are 3 categories: business enterprise, business houses, and government, and other private higher education institutions. You can see the percentage of these 3 categories, their role and their contribution in development of R&D ecosystem in India. Business enterprise is only %, whereas it is very high. So it is the responsibility of every business to contribute to the development of the system actually, but we are not actually. Moreover, government is supporting a lot in our country, whereas in other countries the government support is minimal, and in our country the government is supporting a lot. It is to an extent of 53%. So because we know that there are various schemes, there are various systems by the government to enhance the research ecosystem, right? As far as institutions are concerned, education institutions are contributing significantly, but actually it is only 5%. So we need to understand where we are lacking. As far as education institutions are concerned, we are the part and parcel, an important stakeholder of education institutions as a faculty member and researchers, but we are only contributing to the country's R&D ecosystem, right? We need to enhance the intensity of research. Likewise, we can contribute to the development of India. Okay. As far as innovation factors in different countries is concerned, India is again very far away from other countries. As far as researchers' intensity is concerned, as I said, per million, we are in the position of only 216 per million, whereas Japan is 5,210, the highest, right? And China is also 1206. As far as scientific and technical journal articles publication is concerned, we are actually okay in the good position. 1,320, but China is far ahead of us, 4,26,000, and US is also far away ahead of us, right? R&D expenditure percentage of our GDP is only 0.6%, which is again very low. So, but still, government is taking care of this. Government is taking various initiatives to enhance the research. Still, the percentage is very less. Developed countries is only 14. It's only, which is again very less as compared to other countries. Patents filed is 45,000, which is again with population ratio also, right? But other countries are far ahead of us. Trademark registry equivalent to France, but again we are very industrial design applications. What we file is only very less as countries, right? So for the 19 and 20 World Economic Forum, that where we as a country exist global scenario. So what are the recent trends that are going up in the Indian research ecosystem? So Indian as a is growing very fast, and it has become one of the market-oriented economy, and very fastly attracting the foreign direct investments in different different industries and different sectors. And moreover, the experiences of various developed economies, we can see that R&D can foster the growth of Indian economy to an extent of $3 trillion. So if we invest more and more on research and development of the country, we can enhance the overall economy, Indian economy, with an extent of $3 trillion. Okay, this is the potential of research and development actually. So this is to explain how important is research and development in each and every field, and it is the duty of every Indian person to understand the importance of R&D and involve in more and more research and development activities. Moreover, in meeting the growth targets, essential innovations are in certain fields like agriculture, manufacturing, transport, energy, digital governance, and medical sectors. These are the upcoming sectors which have the importance and the potential to enhance, to contribute significantly to the Indian economy actually. So these are the emerging industries, and we need to focus on conducting a research and development activities in this particular areas, like agriculture, energy, or medical, right? And the factors that catalyze the growth of Indian R&D ecosystem, it includes the increased R&D investments. Obviously, investments are important. We require funds to develop the ecosystem, and that is the most important factor. Education is the second most important factor, right? You need to be educated enough to conduct the research work. So whether you have that particular required knowledge to conduct the research activities or not, that is most important. You need to ensure this the level of knowledge required to conduct research activities. Moreover, as I said, the educational institutions are not very much contributing in the research and developing the research and development ecosystem. So it is important to all the private sector universities to actively participate in the development of research ecosystem, right? So it is the duty of every stakeholder of the universities to contribute to the development of the ecosystem, the employers, the environment, to the faculty members to conduct research work. Researchers, the faculty members also should have the mindset to conduct the research work. Incentives are always important and the motivating factors The startups companies can be started and developed if the entrepreneurs have achieved a certain level of incentives as a motivating factor, right? So again, there are various initiatives taken by the government to provide the fund to the company by the entrepreneurs. Moreover, the education institute focus on developing the entrepreneurial ecosystem among the students as well as the faculty members also, and that's why we are adopting at our universities also we are adopting various initiatives taken by the government, right? For example, institution innovation councils we are opening, and we are promoting the entrepreneurial activities at different levels for the students as well as the faculty members also, right? Moreover, for the startups, the government has imposed reasonable taxes on the so that to promote the startups, and because I'm talking about startups because it is very much related to research and development activity. So once you are involved into research and development activities, you will only be able to have your startup, right? And it has a contribution, a significant contribution in the research ecosystem also of the country, right? So we need to understand where the country is going, what to conduct such research and developmental activities in those demanding sectors. We can also contribute to the economy. So research basically creates knowledge actually, right? So we need to first of all understand where the trend is going, where we need research work. Obsolete knowledge or the things which are very old, the sectors which are very old and which does not have any potential, conducting research work on those things is will let you into a drain, right? It will not going to help you in any ways. So you need to first of all identify where the research is going on nowadays, in trend first of all, right? Where the trend is going, where the research is required to do. This is most important factor that you need to identify first of all, the sector, the area, okay? Then what applications could emerge based on ongoing research trends? So it is related to the application of your knowledge and the application of the research activities you are conducting, how you can apply in order to solve the problems, right? Is there any research trend that would trigger a strategic security risk for the future of the humanity? So we need to take care of all these questions while deciding what in which area we need to conduct the research and what we are going to do. So we need to identify and answer these questions first of all. And it is the right time now to understand the emerging research trends first of all. So unless and until you are not identifying the emerging research trends, your research will not get importance from anywhere actually. You will not be able to publish research papers. You will not get the readers to read, and then it will affect your citations and impact factor also, right? So first of all, you need to identify what is the trend, where we are going, where is the requirement to conduct the research work, and then you need to go ahead with your research activities, right? So there are various priority areas and technologies that are upcoming nowadays, and it is been prioritized globally also. So the priority areas are related to technology. Climate change is again important factor to be considered, important area to be researched upon. Ocean resources is again an upcoming area of research. Biodiversity, cyber security is again one of the important. Industry and corporate governance, geopolitical and geo-operation. These are the priority areas which always hot and trending to conduct a research work actually. And as far as technologies are concerned, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, you might have heard about all those things, right? These are the upcoming technologies, emerging technologies, and it demands a research actually. Advanced materials, smart grids, autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles, drones, big data analysis, precision medicines, genomics. These are all important upcoming technologies that needs research. So if you are able to identify the priority area and emerging technologies, and if you are considering your research work on this particular areas and technologies, no one can stop you to again conduct the research and developmental activities, or no one can stop you to publish your papers or filing the patents, right? Other important technologies or the areas, upcoming areas, are blockchain or the cryptocurrencies, right? So you can conduct your research. 3D printing, green technologies are again important areas to be discussed and researched upon. Fine. So on the line of understanding this emerging trends, we need to understand how to conduct the research work. That is also an important aspect for every researcher. First of all, we need to understand the identify, and we need to identify the area. First of all, we need to understand this, that it is important factor. Second thing is you need to have appropriate knowledge to conduct research work. What I have experienced that the researchers do not focus on the basics of research. That's why they lack quality publications. The good journals will not accept unless and until you are not somehow highlighting the basics of research actually. The editor will come to know that the researcher, the author does not know about research. It will be clearly evident from the paper actually, right? So it is very important for a researcher to understand the basics of research first of all. And it is applicable in any field, whether it is business management, whether it is commerce, whether it is science, chemistry, physics, zoology, botany, anything, whether it is law, whether it is engineering and technology, anything. The basics of research is universally applicable in any kind of any field of research. Okay. So I will cover a few important concepts and a few important terminologies, and will not go in very detail because of the time constraint. And it is the duty of all the participants to remember or to take the screenshots and then study it after the sessions. Okay. So what is research basically? So research is a systematic and complete study or investigation of a problem actually. So there is always a question in our mind and we need to solve that question. We need a solution of that question or problem, right? So the common phenomena, how we solve a problem or how we provide a solution to a question, is basically with our gut feeling or the intuition we have in our mind, right? But it is not necessary that that solution provided by the gut feeling or intuition may provide you the efficient and effective solution to a problem. It is not necessary. You cannot ensure, right? And we always feel that we already know the solutions of a problem, or we know the answers of the questions because of our common sense, but we may not be correct. So to ensure the effectiveness, to ensure the correctness, we need to conduct the rigorous scientific scrutiny. That is what known as research. Only with the help of your guesswork, you may not be able to solve a problem effectively and efficiently. So research is very much required, and it is an important aspect of everyone's life actually. Knowingly or unknowingly, we conduct research work in our decision-making activities actually. But whether those research decisions taken are scientifically scrutinized or not, this is important point to consider. Whether we have conducted, whether we have taken the decision on the basis of research or not. And again, if you're conducting research, whether you have conducted the research in a systematic way or not, that is important. You will say that you're conducting research work and then you're taking decisions. Again, you need to ensure whether you have conducted research in a systematic way or not. That is also important, right? So research is a systematic and organized way. If you are performing 6 before performing 5 of research, your results may be wrong actually. So you need to ensure that you are following the systematic and organized way of conducting research work in finding the answers to the question. This is very important. You must know what is the exact way. What are the steps of conducting research work, right? So in a very brief, I will talk about research work. So research basics involves this particular figure. It will help you to explain how to go for research, how to conduct research work. The first and the foremost thing what a researcher is to understand the philosophy of research. the most outer circle. It includes four important things: positivism, realism, interpretivism, and pragmatism. You need to define the research philosophy first of all. So once you have identified the area, once you have identified the technology you are going to research upon, according to the trend, what is going on, right? Where is the demand of research? After identification, you will start conducting your research work, right? So the first and the foremost step to define the philosophy of research, which includes positivism, realism, interpretivism, and pragmatism. You need to identify one of the research philosophy of your study, right? In the second point, in the second step, you will go to approach. Approach includes deduction and induction. There is third one is also abduction, but deduction and induction is important. I will explain this in the further slides. Okay. So in the second step, you need to decide what is the approach, whether you are conducting with the help of deductive thinking or inductive thinking, right? The third and the foremost step of understanding is your methodological choice, the third circle. So what type of study you're going to do, whether you're going to conduct a quantitative study, a qualitative study, or a multi-method study. So multi-method will involve a multi-method quantitative also, multi-method qualitative also, or mixed method also, which will involve both quantitative and qualitative, right? So in mono method quantitative, there will be one quantitative research design you will choose. Mono qualitative, you will choose one particular qualitative research design, one particular method of qualitative research. In multi-method quantitative, you will adopt various methods that belongs to quantitative research only. Okay. In multi-method qualitative, you will adopt various methods of research that will belong to qualitative only. And then when you will mix different methods out of quantitative and qualitative both, that is called mixed method design. Okay, that can be simple as well as complex also. So in the third step, you need to identify the methodological choice. Fine. Once you have decided methodological choice, the fourth step is you need to define the strategy, that how you are going to conduct the research work. Either you are going to conduct an ethnography study, either you're going to conduct a case study, or action research, or grounded theory method, or narrative inquiry, or archival research, or with the help of survey or experiment, you are going to conduct your work. So survey and experiment is quantitative method, okay, and archival also. Case study, ethnography, action research, grounded theory, narrative inquiry are all qualitative methods. So if you're adopting case study and ethnography research, it will be multi-method qualitative, right? If you're conducting survey and side by side you're conducting experiment also, it is a multi-method quantitative. If you decided to choose only experimentation in your study, only you will conduct experiments, right? So it will be mono-method quantitative. If you decided to conduct only grounded theory study, it will be mono method qualitative. Fine. So if you decided to conduct an experimental research also, moreover, you will also include narrative inquiry. So you are including quantitative method, experiment, and narrative inquiry qualitative method. So it will be mixed method design. So it depends on your research question, that which type of strategy you will adopt to answer your research question. Right? So there is a problem in your mind that how artificial intelligence may affect the human life. Okay, you need to identify this. You need to understand this. So first of all, you need to decide the philosophy. Is it related to positivism or realism or interpretivism or pragmatism? That how artificial intelligence affect the human life. Okay. Once you have decided the philosophy that based on your research question, you will identify the approach, whether it will be deduction research or induction research, right? After deciding approach, you will go to methodological choice, whether you are going to conduct a qualitative, quantitative, or mixed method design. So once you have decided the methodological choice, it will be easier for you to decide the strategy that how you're going to conduct that research, either experiment or action research or grounded theory. Okay. And in the next step, you need to also decide the time horizon, whether you will conduct your research in a cross-sectional basis or your research will be a longitudinal research. Okay, so cross-section means at the same time, but in different sections, right? So for example, you are conducting research on male and female, how artificial intelligence affect human life as male and female, how it affect male and how differently it affect female. So this is cross-sectional based on the gender. Okay. Then longitudinal depends on time. Time means present and then future. So you will conduct research today, and then you will conduct your research after 6 months or say 1 year. So for example, what will be the potency of a medicine on human health, right? So you will do the clinical trials for the medicine. So you will test the efficacy of the medicine at present, and then after say 10 days. So this is a longitudinal research, and you will conduct that what is the effect of a medicine on a particular disease on different time frames. So that is a longitudinal research. So you need to decide the time horizon also, right? Then at last, you need to identify or define how you're going to collect the data and how you're going to analyze the data. That will help you to define the solution of the problem. So data collection and data analysis is again the last step that will further lead to the conduction of research then. So decisions need to be taken well before in advance, before conduction of the research work, actual research work, right? So these are the basics of research, and I'm sure many researchers do not know about all these things. And this will provide you the direction, exact, accurate direction to conduct your research work, which will help you to create a quality research, a quality study. It will help you to conduct a quality study. And likewise, you will be able to create a quality paper then. And then you'll be able to publish in a good quality journal, right? So you need to take care of all these things, very important. Let's discuss this one by one. So these philosophical concepts are there, certain concepts are there. Again, you need to define before doing research work. So research basically starts with ontology. Ontology is basically how we view the world, right? So the question what I raised is how artificial intelligence affects human life, basically. So this is the question that comes to your mind, and you wanted to answer this question. But this answering of this question will largely affect your thought process also, the researcher's thought process, how the researcher thinks of it. Whether the artificial intelligence, you as a researcher, you think that it is good or you think it is bad. Okay, so your view also is important aspect to be considered while conducting research work. So always there's a scope of biasness, right? You're not a machine, or you're not at a constant pace that everything is zero in your mind. No. So you have a certain belief system, and that will definitely affect the research work, right? So it is very important to understand the ontological part of research, that is how we view the world. That is the base, that is the background of research, right? So you need to understand this first of all. Then you need to define the epistemology also, which is the main branch of the research, that how we should investigate the world. So it very much depends on the researcher, that how the researcher is going to investigate to prove the research question that is there in the mind. This is what known as epistemology. So you need to, while conducting research work, you need to define the ontology also, while defining the research question, that how artificial intelligence affect the human life. You need to also that how I view the world, how I view this particular research question, and then you need to also define. Then in the next step, you need to define the epistemology also, right? So ontology is basically the philosophy first circle, okay, first circle, and then epistemology includes the second, third, and fourth circle. This is what the epistemology is, right? So ontology is your philosophy. Ontology includes positivism, realism, interpretivism, and pragmatism. And epistemology starts with the approach, the methodological choice, and the strategies to be adopted, right? And then and the methods and methodology are there. Methodology is the small branches of the trees, and that helps you to decide how we should collect the best data. What are the parameters that you need to consider while collecting the data, and then the methods will define how exactly you will collect the data. It means your sample design and who will be the respondents, how many respondents will be there. So method is the last point to decide, right? Which methodology and method will be the center point, the center circle data collection, data analysis part, right? So this will be the methodology and methods. So these four basic concepts, philosophical concepts, need to be taken care of while conducting a research work. So whenever you're conducting a research study or formulating a paper, you need to ensure that these questions have been answered, whether you have addressed the ontological part or not, whether you are addressed the epistemological part or not, whether you have addressed the methodological methods part or not, right? So generally researchers address the methodology and method part in their research work, but they forget to address the ontology and epistemology, which is a very important aspect to be considered, and we lack in mentioning all these things. So you can actually compare the research papers what we publish here in India, the most of the mediocre level of faculty members and the institutions, and the papers which have been published in high top rated journals. Obviously, they belong to foreign nations, right? So you can compare these two papers, how it has been written, what is the difference in the quality of the paper. So I am sure you will find the ontological epistemological in those papers, the high quality papers, right? You need to identify that how the ontology is mentioned and how the epistemology is mentioned in the papers. You need to understand this. You need to work on it, right? Fine. Then, but let's talk about research philosophy. As I told, there are four research philosophy: realism, positivism, interpretivism, and pragmatism. Realism is reality, what you see actually. This is what known as ontology, right? What you see, how you see the world. This is your belief system, what you believe. Fine. Then comes the positivism. It is totally related to quantitative research, which involves primary data gathering and analysis. And it talks about epistemology also. It talks about what are the factual informations and whether you believe in those factual informations or not, because the factual informations what you have collected is out of your senses, your observations, and you convert it into a quantitative study, and that is what known as epistemology. Interpretism is also a philosophy related to epistemology, but it depends on qualitative research. So qualitative research is basically how you collect the data in a subjective form. Okay. The prominent methods of qualitative research is interviews and observations again, and it depends on the interpretivism philosophy, which again represents the epistemology. Epistemology is what? Epistemology is how we should investigate the world. Okay, so how you're going to investigate the world, either through quantitative research or qualitative research. So quantitative research is positivism, collecting the first-hand data and being positive of what you are observing or what you are seeing or what you're collecting. Interpretism means subjective form. You are interpreting of something that is happening. So the research study that will be related to interpretism is qualitative research study. Fine. And it is epistemology, that how we should investigate the world. And at last, pragmatism. Pragmatism is action research actually, wherein you need to ensure that what you have identified or concluded can be applied in reality. This is what pragmatism. Basically, it depends on the methods and methodology, that data, analyzing it, and then actually implementing the solutions. That is what known as pragmatism. And it is what known as action research. It means your research work that can make actions. Okay. So determinist pragmatism. So your study will depend on one of the research philosophy, and you need to identify that. So if your research question is whether artificial intelligence affects human life or not, okay. So this is the research question, and you need to decide whether you need to go for realism, positivism, interpretism, or pragmatism. You need to decide it. Okay. Multiple philosophies can also be included, and if you are writing a paper, you need to clearly mention for which philosophy this study belongs to. Okay. So again, there is a difference in pragmatism, positivism, realism, interpretism is mentioned on the basis of the popular data collection methods. So how you're going to collect the data. Okay. So I'll not go in detail, but it is your duty to explore this research philosophy and understand it. Okay, fine. Next is research approach. As I said, it is a general plan and procedure that how you're going to conduct your study. And this is of two categories: deductive approach and inductive approach. So basically, there are two things what we researchers do actually. We either test the theory or we build a theory. Okay. So social exchange theory is one of the prominent theory in HR and OP actually, wherein the members of the society have a relationship with them with the help of exchanges they do. Okay, this is what the interaction happens. This is how the relationship is generated, and they communicate each other and they exchange certain things. And this is what been explained by the social exchange theory. So social exchange theory has been built by someone, right? So that particular author, researcher who built or generated the social exchange theory adopted the inductive approach. Okay, that's how that theory came into picture. That is social exchange theory, and that researcher adopted the inductive approach. Now, at this present stage, if you wanted to test the social exchange theory in current scenario, in Indian context or in any national context, right, you will test that theory. That will be considered as a deductive approach. If you are building a theory, it is inductive approach. If you are if you're testing a theory, it is a deductive approach. So inductive approach requires qualitative research, and deductive approach, that is theory testing, requires quantitative research, right? So you will generate the hypothesis, you will collect the first-hand data, and then you will analyze and come to conclusions, and then you will prove that whether hypothesis is accepted or rejected. This is what you're testing something, testing a framework, testing a theory, right? While building a theory, again, you need to collect previous data, and you need to build a concept work that this can happen like this, and you are proposing a theory. That is what known as theory building, and it's inductive approach, right? So you can understand the research approach, that is inductive and deductive research, of this particular diagram. So there is a theory, you are generating certain hypothesis, and with the help of data you are proving the hypothesis. That is known as deductive research. Okay, right hand side. In the left hand side, you can see out of the data what is already existing in the literature, you are describing it more in your own terms. You are bringing about the empirical generalizations out of the existing literature, the empirical data out of empirical data, and then you are presenting your point of theory or conceptual framework. That is known as inductive research. You are inducting something and creating something, you are generating something. That is known as inductive research, right? So you need to decide at the second part, at the second step, you need to decide whether your study will belong to inductive research or deductive research. And you need to somehow mention your research paper also, this one, right? It will enhance the quality of a research paper. So deductive research belongs to quantitative research. It starts with a theory, generating hypothesis, conducting observations and research test, and then confirming or rejecting your hypothesis and testing the theory. Okay. Inductive research belongs to qualitative research. With the help of observation and test, and you create a pattern, and then you propose a theory. Fine. Further researchers will test your theory and then prove that your theory is good or bad, it is right or wrong. So let researchers test your theory. You only build a theory. And let me tell you, building a theory is very difficult as compared to testing a theory. It is very easy to test a theory, but it is very difficult to build a theory. Right? Then you need to also understand certain research designs. So I will tell you there are four research designs, four types of paper what you can prepare. The most common is review paper, review research what you conduct. Review is just reviewing the previous literature and presenting your point of view. It can be exploratory in nature. You are exploring some existing knowledge. Okay, you are reviewing any existing theory and giving your point of view. You are reviewing any concepts, any definitions, anything. You can review even any particular finished paper also, and you can put your point of view, and then you can create a paper and then you can get it published also, right? So previous literatures, when you are reviewing and giving your point of view, is known as review. This is common, very common. You need to understand in detail if you are really interested in conducting reviews. Okay, then to the second is qualitative research. Qualitative research, as I said, it helps you to generate the theory, generate a conceptual framework, inductive approach. And there are various types of qualitative research. Again, we will check it out in the next slide. And then it basically involves primary data, but data that are collected through observations, interviews, focus group interviews, and it is more of a subjective form. And then with the help of analysis of that subjective answers, the subjective statements, you come to a conclusion and propose a theory or framework. Okay, quantitative research is purely deductive approach. It is purely theory testing, and you adopt a survey or experiment. So it depends on whether you are creating experimental design or you're creating a non-experimental design in conducting the quantitative research. Non-experimental is surveys, okay, and experimental designs is actually you're conducting experiments. Fine. So clinical trials, when conducted by the pharmacist or the medical fraternity or the pharmaceutical companies to test the medicine, that is known as experimental designs, right? And then if you're adapting any of the two methods, review, qualitative or quantitative, you will as a mixed method research design. It is very common because it ensures the quality of the study from all the ends. Common methods nowadays which is being adopted, accepted by the journals, right? So this is the difference between qualitative and mixed method designs on different parameters. For example, quantitative method is mixed method, and qualitative research depends on the open-ended questions, right? And the mixed involves both. Various differences between all these three methods you can explore more, and you can while implementing any of the one method. Okay. So as far as the first research design is concerned, of literature review, there are various reviews that you can conduct according to the requirement, according to your research question. For example, narrative review, critical review. I'm not going to explain all these reviews, but I'm just informing you that these are the various types of reviews. You need to go through it, understand it, and what is there in these reviews and how you can conduct any of the study in such reviews. You need to understand it. Okay. So narrative critical reviews, their umbrella reviews, state of art review, systematic literature review is the most common review that generally researchers do. And integrative review means you are integrating two different concepts and studying it. For example, artificial intelligence and well-being of the society or well-being of the human life. So well-being and artificial intelligence, these are the two concepts you are integrating and studying, that how they are interrelated with each other as presented by the past researchers. Okay, so this is one known as integrative review. When you're studying only one particular aspect or parameter, say artificial intelligence, how artificial intelligence has evolved since past, so you can conduct of art review or systematic review, literature review for that particular that is artificial intelligence. Okay, depends on your requirement, on your research question, what you wanted to do, and identify or select a particular type of review. Okay, there are other reviews also like rapid review, mixed studies review, theoretical literature review, mapping review, systematic map, quantitative or qualitative meta-analysis. Meta-analysis, again, one of the most desired reviews to be conducted nowadays. Meta-analysis, right? Then if you talk about types of qualitative research, that is inductive approach, there are 6 basic qualitative type researches: phenomenological research, grounded theory study, case studies, ethnographic studies, narrative analysis. So, for example, narrative analysis is also storytelling, stories. If you are narrating something in the form of a story, you can, okay. So there are journals which focus on accepting the papers based on narrative analysis. Identify the journals, also check the requirement, and if you're interested to conduct as per the requirement of that journal, who exists. Okay, ethnographic study depends on the culture, studying any culture. So recently I conducted a study, ethnographic study on on gurdwaras, how the gurdwara, the culture, how what particular culture is prevailing in the gurdwaras, right? How the people are behaving there, how they are reacting, how they are talking with each other. So this generally I did through observations. So I visited 6 gurdwaras, just observed. I even took interview of 1 or 2 people over there. And then out of my observation and in the mains, I proposed certain apps, and I prepared a conceptual framework also. So in turn, I tried to build a theory out of it, right? So that is what known as ethnographic study. I also read one researcher did an ethnographic study on vegetable market. So it is very beautiful to conduct this study, and if you are this studying culture, you can conduct a study, and that researcher narrated each and every activity what he did in research work. He himself become the vegetable vendor, and he sold vegetables for 1 month in that vegetable, and he was observing the activity of all the vegetable vendors in that vegetable market and the customer. And out of that observation paper, that what I am going to say, the last agenda. Okay, to research, you need to understand all the 6 types of research, and then you need to decide which particular study you are going to conduct. Okay, so research, correlation research, casual experimental research. So survey research is or the question or answers to a research question. Okay, conducting experiment. You just collect data first, data of questions. That is what known as survey research. This all belongs to quantitative research, and this. Okay, fine. Third analytics is right. I will take 5 to 10 minutes more. Or research analytics, whatever. But analytics is nothing but identifying the relationships to help the firms to address the problems and to take decisions. Okay. So it is nothing but interpreting the data patterns. So you have a lot of data actually nowadays because of the technology we can collect n number of data, millions of data we can collect. What is known as big data analysis, right? Analytics is basically used in big data analytics. So you have enough data. How are you going to interpret it? It is a very tedious job if you have millions of data. So you require certain softwares, you require. right? To take future decisions which must be effective. So analytics is important. Analytics is nothing but analysis with the help of statistics. So if you're analyzing the data with the help of statistics, with the help of softwares, with the help of statistical techniques, you call it as analytics. That's it, right? In a study of Deloitte in 2018, it is confirmed that 50% of the companies are using analytics, but it's still 50% companies who are not using analytics nowadays. Okay, just 14% of the organizations in the US are using predictive analytics. This is one from the analytics out of 4 in taking talent decisions. So only 14% of the organization in US also. So what will be the percentage in India? You can predict actually, right? So we are still not still adopting. Analytics again is a part of research. You need to collect the data. You need to formulate the research question. You need to systematically conduct your research work in interpreting the data. So research is again a part of analytics. So analytics is part of research, you can say, right? So there are approaches of analytics: descriptive, diagnostics, predictive, and prescriptive. Again, to define in your study that what type of analytics you're utilizing in your study. So if you are describing the current state of things or events, or even in the past events or situations, you will call it as a descriptive analytics. Okay. If you're trying to find out the causes of the situations or the events, what are the reasons why it happened, right? So what happened can be answered in descriptive analytics. Why it happened, the reasons, the causes, you need to conduct diagnostic analytics. Okay. So you need to also mention all these things while writing your research paper. If you're trying to predict the future, that what will happen, right? So if I wanted to know what is happening if AI, artificial intelligence, is increased, what will happen in the well-being of the human life, right? So I am describing it. So there will be negative effect of artificial intelligence on well-being of the human life. If I came to know this particular thing, this is my result. Then I will try to find out. I will try to diagnose it. What are the reasons why it is negatively affecting the artificial intelligence? Then I will go ahead do a diagnostics analytics, right? If I wanted to predict the future, that after 5 years or 10 years, if we are utilizing artificial intelligence in this space only, what will happen after 10 years? Then this is predictive analytics, that is anticipating the future outcomes. So another statistical techniques you will require, like data mining and machine learning, to predict the future actually, right? So involvement of different technological or statistical techniques are required in each type of approach of analytics, right? Prescriptive analytics, when you will try to provide the solution, that what you can do to make it more better. You are providing the suggestions. That is known as prescriptive analytics, right? So again, you need to identify in your research study that which type of analytics you are adopting. You need to explain this also. Okay. This is the escalator what questions can be answered and what type of information can be gained in the graph of in the terms of value and the difficulty it creates. Okay. So this is an analytic value escalator. And the fourth agenda is mindset actually. So I am now shifting towards the behavioral aspect of the researcher. We as a researcher and the faculty members, that what is there in our mind, how we think, what we think, and how we can make it better. Because we have the requirement of conducting research work in personal life also, but in professional life also, it is our requirement as a teacher, as a faculty member, that we need to publish papers, we need to get patents. Okay. Due to various reasons, due to upliftment in our career, due to getting promotions and increments, we require it. This is the hard fact. But we need to change our mindset. Problem is we do not have the research mindset actually. We do not want to work hard. This is the hard fact. And we do not work hard actually. Okay. So first of all, we need to believe in ourselves. Okay. So what is the Indian growth mindset actually? To answer Again, there are a few questions that is being raised: is are we really building the research ecosystem in India? Are we really mean it? Are we really keen to build a research ecosystem in India? We need to understand this, and we need to answer this also. I don't think so. Are we really growing in terms of research? Again, maybe, but in a very slow pace. And at last, do we have the research mindset actually? Not at large. Except few institutions, few good researchers, we are not. We do not have the research mindset. You can evaluate in your institutions also. Okay. So for this, we need to have a different mindset overall. Every stakeholders require this, whether be it the employer or the employee, student, teacher, anyone. We need to have a different mindset and mind it. Without research, we are nowhere actually. We are nowhere. We need to understand the importance of research. It's not only about publication, it's about enhancing the knowledge. It's about disseminating the knowledge through research work, right? So we have two types of mindset, either fixed or growth. We 90% of the people are belongs to fixed mindset actually. Right? Okay. So intelligence is statistic and leads to a desire to look smart. And leads to a desire to look smart. This is what fixed mindset people think. Whereas the growth mindset people think that intelligence can be developed and leads to a desire to learn. So if you have a learning desire, okay, it means you are in the category of growth mindset and you believe that intelligence can be developed. If you always think about how we can look more smarter and smarter, you believe that intelligence is static and you belongs to a fixed mindset, right? So you need to develop or you need to convert from fixed mindset to growth mindset if you are not into a growth mindset category. Okay, what you can do, you need to adopt a growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset. First of all, you need to understand the importance. You need to be intellectually open to ideas, experiences, and diversity. You need to preserve and respond to critique and obstacles. The important thing is we do not tolerate critique. We do not able to face obstacles actually. That's why we avoid the obstacles. So it is difficult to accept the humiliation first of all, and we need to learn how to accept the humiliation. Then only we can convert our fixed mindset to growth mindset. And you need to assume authority over your learning and development as a writer first of all. The power, the authority what we have, we try to enjoy that more and more, and we forget about learning and development actually. And this what restricts us to become a category of, right? So how can nurture a research mindset? Research mindset focus on learning in pursuit of answering relevant questions. So your focus should be on learning actually and answering the relevant questions. This is how you can develop the research mindset. It is you and only who you can control yourself. No one can outsider can make you learn. No one can teach you how to nurture a research mindset. You and only who can develop. You need to understand the important. It helps us to validate the assumptions, dampen the noise, and own in what really matters. If you are able to develop a research mindset, and it's your actions that will trigger you. That is your intentions, incentives, or intrinsic values. So your intention should be positive. Your intention should be limiting factor, as I said earlier. But external incentives may not lead to the permanent motivation. But this is the intrinsic motivation that will lead to permanent motivation, right? So you should not research because of showing someone, because of gaining appraisal, because of gaining monetary incentives, right? You should conduct research work for your internal values, for your internal desire of learning actually. Then only you will be considered as a true researcher first of all, and it will be a lifelong mindset to conduct the research work. So you need to think about yourself that how is your research mindset is, right? For example, I would like to narrate this. There is a dichotomy of clinical and researcher, clinician and researcher uh, person who is a clinician and a researcher also, right? So what clinician will say that I am a clinician and I am not a researcher. So why should I research upon? And I am busy practicing with a little additional time what I get in my day-to-day activities, right? And it is not necessarily outside the academic practice. So where research, I am a clinician, I will practice my own job. But this is not the correct mindset actually. So although that particular clinician does not require to conduct a research work to show anyone, but it is should be that clinician's own internal desire and the understanding the importance of research, that if research is involved, that particular clinician can excel in the job itself with the help of research, right? So when clinical practice is done with a scientific approach, right, it will further enhance the quality of clinician. So what can that clinician do to become a researcher at the same time? That clinician can find the best way to treat a patient by conducting research work. Again, this is a part of his job, right? Find reasons for the gap between evidence and practice. That likewise, that clinician can conduct implementation research. That what is the gap between what has been written and what we practice as a clinician. So they can find out the reasons. Again, they can find out the reasons and minimize the gap so that quality can be enhanced in the treatment, right? But that can only be done if research work is conducted. They can fill the evidence gap with the prospective or retrospective study and help others from their own experiences by publishing the paper. So others will read and then they can enhance their knowledge also, right? So clinician must not say, as an example, if we talk about clinician, no one should say that research is not important and that is not their job. Every individual in this world have the responsibility to conduct the research work in their own field actually. And if we talk about we as an educationist or the faculty members, it is our topmost priority to conduct research work because we are the interface between knowledge and the students, right? So at last, you need to collaborate with each other. Alone, you cannot do anything. You need to form a team. You need to communicate effectively what is there in your mind. You can communicate by conducting research work and publishing your paper. That is also one of the way. Okay, and you need to connect. Collaboration is only possible when you are connecting with others. So you need to connect globally also. We are into the age of globalization. There are no boundaries between us, between nations. So connection is important, collaboration is important, and effective communication is important. This what the culture we need to build actually. And it is a responsibility of all these stakeholders to build such type of culture in order to enhance the research ecosystem in our country. Thank you so much. This is my email ID and WhatsApp. You can get in touch with me anytime. I'll be more happy to answer your queries, or I'll be more happy to connect with you anytime. Thank you so much. I'm through with my session. Any questions if you have?
Dr. Saket, it was a wonderful presentation.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, so very rightly you said that collaborate, communicate, and connect. These three C very nicely has been put forward. So I'm sure our students will be getting your connect and collaboration in future also.
Definitely.
Wonderful presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions, any queries?
Thank you so much, sir. You very well explained our participants who are present online and offline about the emerging trends in the field of research. be it basics of research, research methodology, and what all things to be kept in mind when we talk about research methodology and going ahead with the research thesis or the scholars. The scholars who have attended, I think they have been definitely got benefited with all the information shared by you regarding research and the trends going on in research. Thank you so much, sir, once again. It was an honor for all of us to have you as a keynote speaker for this ICETMRI 2022. Thank you so much. We are glad and we are looking forward to have you in future sessions also. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, participants. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Saket.
Yeah.
See
Shall I
you
take a
soon.
leave?
Yeah, please, sir. Thank
Sure,
you.
sir. Sure.
See you soon in
Thank you,
offline
sir.
also.
Right, sir.
Sure. Thank
I
you.
will.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.
Moving ahead with the program, we have our guest speaker, Professor Dr. G.D. Sharma with us. Dr. Professor Sharma is currently working as Vice Chancellor, University of Science and Technology, Meghalaya, after serving Bilaspur State University in Chhattisgarh since June 2012. As a founder Vice Chancellor, he has made significant contribution in quality enhancement of higher education during his 2 terms of Vice Chancellor in the state of Chhattisgarh. Professor G.D. Sharma is a leading educationist, eminent scholar, reputed life scientist, and a well-known academic administrator of India as a Vice Chancellor. He has served 2 central universities of Government of India in northeastern states like in Northeastern Hill University, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, NERIST, Arunachal Pradesh, and in Assam University as Head Dean, Life Sciences and Pro Vice Chancellor, and in Nagaland Central University as Vice Chancellor for the last nearly 45 years. Professor Sharma has guided 60 research scholars for their PhD degrees, 5 MPhil and 5 postdoctoral fellows. He has published over 362 research papers in national and international journals of repute. He has edited or authored 13 books published by Indian and foreign publisher. Professor Sharma has visited countries like USA, England, Canada, Japan, China, Malaysia, Myanmar, and Thailand for various academic activities and assignments. He has Fellowship of Academic Society from Royal Society London, UK, and India under Exchange Program, Fellow of Indian Mycological Society, 2009, FIMS, Fellow of Indian Botanical Society, FBS, Fellow of International Natural Resource and Environment Society, FINRES. He has received several awards and honors, naming few of them: Dr. Narasimhan Medal Award by Indian Phytopathology Society in 1993 for Best Research Paper, Rashtriya Ratna Award by International Studies Center in 2003, Deed Award by Confederation of India University, and many more. Professor Sharma bears a good moral character with integrity, commitment, dedication, determination, and adaptability. His knowledge and expertise, and wisdom will help a lot to realize dreams of people for a new India of the 21st century. With these brief lines about Dr. Sharma, I would request Dr. Sharma to address you all and enlighten us with his thoughts and knowledge. Over to you, sir.
and in the International Conference on Emerging Trends in Multidisciplinary Research and Innovation, ICETMRI 2022, organized by LCIT Group of Institutions in virtual mode. We have very eminent speakers like Dr. Felix C. Charel, Junior President, Jose Maria College, Davao City, Philippines, Dr. D.K. Jaiswal, Pharmaceutical Consultant, Hallsville, New York, Dr. G.R. Saha, Myanmar Institute of Information Technology, Mandalay, Myanmar, Dr. Mona Purohit, Dean and Head, Barakatullah University, Bhopal, Dr. Saket Jaswani, Associate Professor and Head, Management, O.P. Jindal University, Raigad, and we have the principals of all these LCIT group of colleges, chief pattern and organizing committee members, Dr. Archana Shukla, principal of LCIT group of colleges. At the outset, I congratulate the group of LCIT to organize this international conference on the emerging trends in multidisciplinary research and innovation. As we know that in National Education Policy 2020, this is one of the area which makes for the students lot of opportunities and boundaryless education as per their choice, as per their potential, as well as the resources available anywhere, either in country or abroad. So far, our education system was having very tight boundaries where students were only having opportunity to pursue their studies, graduation or post-graduation or research in a very defined area of the education. For example, if somebody is pursuing education in physics, he or she will be undergoing UG, PG and research in the physics only. She is not allowed or he is not allowed to take up any research in other areas. This has restricted the innovation, particularly the application of art. And also, this has also restricted to connect our research and innovation to the need of society, need of industries, and also how to create a new business or how to brought into our researches into the new emerging areas of the application of those studies. Therefore, after 34 years of the 1986 education policy, where a lot of changes have taken place, particularly in the area of information technology and new areas like the artificial intelligence, IoT, machine learning, and so many other areas have also emerged. So our education system remained quite, we can say, away from this education system. But now Indian education system, particularly after this National Education Policy 2020, provides opportunity to the students to excel under different areas, particularly make education relevant to the need of the emerging need, particularly of society, community, and also of the business. That means this gives an opportunity to make education relevant and also to solve the problems. So far, most of our researches was incremental, not the innovative. Very few research institutes were doing innovative researches, and that is one of the reasons that in spite of our second largest education system in the world, very few IPR or the patents are being filed. But in recent years, in last few years, now our youths, after getting this opportunity of multidisciplinary approach, multidisciplinary choices, both at graduate and postgraduate and also research level, they have started a lot of innovative researches. And the result is that India is emerging as one of the fastest growing country in establishing the incubators and startups. Particularly in last 2 years, a number of new startups have been established in India where they are doing innovative research and making their research application oriented. So, looking into the policy and its application, the next step is the regulatory bodies. We have to have the regulatory bodies which can also make ordinances and also those modifications in existing act and statutes, so that institutes are allowed to give this opportunity to their students, and therefore we can say they can combine the resources, pool the resources, and make it available to the students to utilize, instead of duplicating or instead of putting the compartment tight. The students will get the opportunity to utilize resources in their own system of the institutions or sharing the national facilities which are developed by the central government, or those MOUs which have been signed or which can be signed to share the facility. This will also allow students to make use of the technology, particularly online technology, either in blended mode or in flip form of the technology, which can also help in having access to the number of OER, open educational resources, which are available throughout the world. A number of platforms even in India have been developed, like the SWAM portal, giving lots of MOOC courses to update the knowledge both for the teachers and the students. The NEPTEL or CEC or other international such platforms are also available, like Coursera and other things. So what is more important is the opportunity available to the students to have access and register themselves to utilize those resources, both in terms of the physical form or in online form, or also the expertise available in different areas of research. And therefore, the University Grants Commission recently has also allowed students to go for 2 degrees simultaneously. Earlier, it was only allowed one in physical form and one in online form, but now they have allowed both the degrees can be obtained in physical mode. Therefore, it is seen that in case of the emerging trends in higher education in India, the students are going to get more opportunities. So here question comes that some of the institutes, particularly those who do not have sufficient infrastructure, some of them are just running with few students, with few physical infrastructure. That will be the difficult, and for them the hand holding or cluster of the institutions concept has to be created so that the students in all areas, whether it is rural area, interior area, can have the access to the new emerging trend of multidisciplinary. For example, a combinations of the courses can also be developed for doing before joining the PhD, so that the exposure of the basic knowledge in different areas is also given. And now universities have already started having this kind of collaboration with other universities within India, with the IITs, and therefore they are developing this blended mode of research, blended mode of teaching learning, and also a number of innovative approaches have been taken up. What is more important here is now at initial stage, many conceptual things which need to be explained and made aware to the institutes, particularly to the teachers, so that they can be given the training how to utilize and develop their own courses, online courses, using 4 quadrants of learning, and therefore avoid any plagiarism or also any approach which is shortcut. This will provide the competitiveness at international level, as well as it will also make our citizen as a global citizen. Once we are able to provide such innovative approach in research, and we find that those unlimited resources which are available, as I said, the Coursera and other platforms, particularly learning management system, these have unlimited approaches of the resources which can be made available. So institutes have to find out their partner so that the students will get opportunity, commerce students can get opportunity in the multiple language systems where the computational linguistics can also be taken up, and how to create the e-commerce or the other resources by bringing into the researches of which he or she is going to take up. So we can now think not to only limit our research to the only local areas, but how to make these local problems to make a solution at the greater level of either country or world level, so that the people can get benefit. So the result of this we have seen recently that during the COVID-19 pandemic, many institutes came together, particularly in vaccine formation, and for the first time India could produce its own vaccine. It was the result of multidisciplinary research and innovation done by the group of the institutes, the technology, the pharmaceutical, as well as those industries which are already in the field of this one. So therefore, now we can think how to incorporate our researches in more application-oriented mode and make it more useful rather than only making theoretical and also not having much application. So I am sure that with this increase of the application-oriented research and innovation, multiple our entry also, multiple exit also will help in multidisciplinary researches and innovation. Particularly what we have seen that in recent areas where the information and the knowledge which is growing so fast, especially in the field of technology, where the IT is importantly taking part in making knowledge available even in interior areas in different forms. So here, what I feel personally, that the new emerging areas will also be part of our learning system. Now, most of our institutes which are unitary in nature, they have to be brought under the multidisciplinary approach, and either through this MOU, these unitary institutes have to become multidisciplinary. This will be the first stage of converging unitary institute into the multidisciplinary approach, either through MOUs or through transformation utilizing the institutes at university level, so that under the new ordinances they do not find difficulty in carrying out the multidisciplinary research and innovation. What we have seen that particularly due to the lack of these statutory regulations, the potential of the institute is not achieved due to the various physical factors. So this new education policy will be helpful in creating such an ecosystem. A new research ecosystem will be able to bring particularly the skill development, the innovation in skills, as well as giving more job opportunity to the students. In such an environment, now question comes whether we have sufficient infrastructure to provide this opportunity. This has also been looked into, and those institutes which are A-grade institutes or A+ institute in imparting the quality education assessed and accredited by the National Assessment and Accreditation Council, they are allowed to go for the joint venture with the foreign universities, and initially the 100 foreign universities will be identified which have the quality education, and therefore they can combinedly go for the utilizing the quality resources, the quality their access, and also go for the joint degree program. Some of these universities have in India, they have already launched the joint degree program of different kinds, where students can spend 1 or 2 semesters abroad, or the students from abroad can come to India, spend their time in doing the research and carrying out the their studies here or using the online mode, giving this opportunity within India to the access of the quality education. Only thing we have to be careful that no such institution is being taken for MOU or like this, which is not having any quality parameter assessed by the regulatory bodies, so that to avoid any future problem in their recognition or equivalence of the research and innovation which they have carried out. More important, what we have seen is the application or takers of that research, where the industries can also launch those topics which can solve their problem. Therefore, the linkage between the industries and the institute will help in providing such problems to be solved through the research and innovation by the institute, and that can also provide the funding. For the first time now, under this National Education Policy 2020, there is a provision that's under CSR funding. Industries can provide funding to the institutes to have such kind of the research funding. Though there is a provision at central government level also as NRF, the National Research Funding, which will also provide the big research projects which can be jointly taken care, or we can have those projects with the multi-institutional project. At present, only for Northeast India, we have the twinning project, which are taken care by the two institutes jointly, and such research is supported by the Department of Biotechnology and Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. But in coming years, more such big research projects, both at national and international level by European Council or by other funding agencies, can be taken up, and therefore pooling of the funding will also help to support the big innovative joint research project, particularly in various areas like the natural disasters management or the floods or climate change, which are the global problem. So multidisciplinary research and innovation can also help in taking up of the global problems to solve them, as well as to see that how best their researches can be applied at different levels, whether it is related to health, as has been done recently in case of the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, in future, more areas of health can be taken up, or related to the climate or hunger. All these are possible only through the multidisciplinary approach, and particularly combining the resources and making it possible to solve the problem jointly. What we have observed that in India, a number of PhDs are produced, number of research papers are also being published, but in proportionate to the number of publications, the impact of their making IPR or filing patent is not seen. On the other hand, the small countries like South Korea, Japan, the filing of patent is much higher in those countries. So that indicates that we need to have more innovative researches which can also be used to file patent and create new business, not only utilizing the technology which has been discarded or which has been now converted to new technology in developed countries. So to overcome and also to make better contribution in socio-economic development of any nation and to work as the knowledge economy, such multidisciplinary research and innovation will make a new approach in its application and helping the development. I am sure that the other speakers will be highlighting, and particularly in our country, in India, the approach taken by the government of India in bringing new changes at different levels of higher education, particularly the merging of various regulatory bodies together, making one umbrella and making rule light but tight, having under the Higher Education Council of India 4 verticals. It will have new approach in providing opportunities to the youth and making our youth as more stronger, more innovative, and also as a global citizen, as one of the youngest country in the world with youth population. We will see that their presence will be important in converting the world into a new area of the development, which brings more peace and prosperity, which also brings more understanding among our cultural aspects, among our diversity, especially in the lingual and cultural diversity, so that it helps in developing as one of the most emerged peaceful coexistent nation at world level. With this, I take this opportunity to thank the organizer to give me this opportunity in spite of my busy schedule, as the organizers know that we are having the Executive Council meeting and convocation, and they provided me online my lecture recording. So I am thankful to all of them, and also allow me to share some of my views where I am associated with different level of higher education, particularly implementation of NEP 2020, and we plan that from July 2022 this NEP 2020 will be implemented, particularly at the multidisciplinary approach of multiple entry and multiple exit, the academic bank of credit, where the credits can be earned by students both at interdepartmental or interinstitutional level, both in country and abroad, as per the guidelines published by the University Grants Commission and AICTE. So these opportunities will be the initiatives from 2022 new academic session, and also will give more opportunities both to our youth and the institutions to play an active role in bringing education to the new front of areas of the socio-economic development. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor G.D. Sharma, sir, for giving us your time. It was very pleasant for us to hear from you, and we all think that we have got a good amount of knowledge and information from you, from your address. We are glad to have you here, sir, today for this session in ICETMRI 2022. Thank you once again, sir, from the whole LCIT group of institutions. It was an honor to have you here. Thank you so much, sir. We are done for the addresses by our guests. Guest address are done. Right now, the sessions are going on for paper presentation and different disciplines. And we'll be meeting for the valedictory ceremony at sharp 2 p.m. In the valedictory ceremony, we'll be going ahead with few of the sessions from our guest of honor and chief guest. Let me tell you what would be the overall overview of the valedictory ceremony. We'll be having a session by Dr. Rahul Giram, who is the organizing chair. After that, we'll be going ahead with the release of the abstract book, which is one of the very most important part of our valedictory ceremony, and this whole program which we are conducting. Then we'll go ahead by the address of Dr. Shruti Rathore, who is Principal, LCIT School of Pharmacy. After that, we have address by Dr. Archana Shukla, who is Principal, LCIT Commerce and Science. Post address of Dr. Archana Shukla, we'll be having our guest of honor, Professor Ravi Prakash Dubey, who is a Vice Chancellor from Dr. C.V. Raman University, Bilaspur, Chhattisgarh. We'll be having our chief guest, Dr. Manoranjan Sharma, who will be addressing you all in our valedictory ceremony. Post the address of Dr. Sharma, we'll be having our director, Dr. Piyush Kant Pandey, who will be addressing you as a presidential address. And finally, we'll be having Mrs. Shubhi Wadhwani, who is Vice Principal, Lakshmi Chand Institute of Technology and School of Pharmacy, giving you all a vote of thanks. This would be the sequence of the valedictory ceremony. We'll be meeting at 2 p.m. sharp for the valedictory ceremony. Thank you all.